Chapter 1781. Nan Yifan felt a sharp pain in his heart when he saw the look in her eyes. He didn't want this to happen either. His own children were crippled and crippled. How could he not feel heartache and not want to avenge them? But the opponent was Rongxiu. If they were in the right, he could still fight for it. But the truth was, most of the blame was on themselves. If Yi hadn't thought of snatching Rongxiu from Shengguanyu at that time. If Yuxing hadn't provoked the other party time and time again in the god-slaying tomb. If they had immediately stopped when they sensed that something was wrong and stayed away from Rongxiu and the rest, things wouldn't have turned out like this. But it was too late to say anything now. The air in the room seemed to have frozen. Nan Yi turned her head away and closed her eyes in despair. Obviously, she didn't want to continue talking to Nan Yifan. Nan Yifan felt very uncomfortable with such a resistant attitude. He had wanted to comfort her, but in the end, they parted on bad terms. He knew that it was useless to say anything now. After looking at Nan Yi for a while, he stood up. He pulled the blanket over Nan Yi, wanting to cover her, but Nan Yi snatched it away. Her actions were crisp and full of resistance. Nan Yifan's hand hung awkwardly in the air. He glanced at Nan Yi and sighed in his heart. His fingers curled up. I will get someone to send another bowl of medicine over. If you don't like these servants, you can get someone else to do it. Don't do this again in the future. With that, he turned around and left. When he reached the door, Nan Yifan paused. He placed a hand on the door and said without turning back. I know you don't take Yuntian Tower seriously, but Rongxiu is indeed someone you can't afford to offend. There are some things you will understand in the future. With that, he pushed the door open and left. After a while, Nan Yi opened her eyes. The room was so silent that it almost made her panic. She turned back to look at the door and frowned. She had never seen her father so afraid of anyone. Could it be that Rongxiu was hiding some secrets? But wasn't he the holy son of the Yuntian Tower? Nan Yi was silent for a long time. A trace of struggle flashed through her eyes, but in the end, she still took out a green jade whistle. She placed the jade whistle next to her lips and blew hard. An extremely soft and sharp cry rang out. However, it also disappeared very quickly. Other than herself, almost no one else heard it. Even Nan Yifan, who had just left, did not notice. Nan Yifan put away the jade whistle and crossed his hands in front of him. He closed his eyes as if he was waiting for something. About a quarter of an hour later, someone came to deliver the medicine. Tuk tuk. Second miss, your medicine is ready. I'll do it. A man's deep voice rang out, interrupting the servant's words and taking the decoction directly. The manservant was feeling nervous, but when he saw who it was, he was overjoyed. Greetings, Elder Luo Yen. Then this medicine. I'll make sure he drinks it. You can leave first. Sigh. Yes. Yes. Luo Yen had a high status, so the manservant naturally didn't dare to disobey his words. He didn't want to come at first. Who didn't know that most of the people who came to serve second miss recently had gotten into trouble? Now that there was someone helping, it couldn't be better. After bowing, the manservant left in a hurry. Luo Yen pushed the door open and entered. When Nan Yi saw him, a look of grievance appeared on her face and her tears fell again. Luo Yan's heart ached when he saw her like this. Why are you still so haggard? Is the medicine not effective? Because he was worried that it would arouse everyone's suspicions about her health, he had only come to see Nan Yi once since he returned. This was the second time. He thought that Nan Yi's health should be much better, but he didn't expect that after such a long time, there still didn't seem to be any improvement. Nan Yi shook her head. Luo Yen frowned even more and walked over to size Nan Yi up carefully. Actually, Nanyi's injuries in the god-slaying tomb weren't fatal. Logically speaking, as long as she came back and recuperated, she should be able to recover. But after so long, Luo Yan looked at her red and swollen eyes and immediately understood something. Perhaps, it was still the heart that was difficult to treat. Nanyi used to be very lively. Now that she couldn't speak, it was normal that she couldn't get over it for a long time. He sent the medicine over. No matter what, the most important thing is to take good care of your health. Nanyi nodded obediently and drank the medicine. The medicine was bitter, but her heart was even more bitter. Luo Yan's heart ached even more when he saw her obedient and silent appearance. Do you have something to say to me, or, he had specially left that jade whistle for Nanyi. As long as Nanyi blew it, he would be able to sense it immediately, but others wouldn't be able to hear it. This was the first time Nanyi had blown the whistle in the past month. Nanyi nodded, took out a pen and paper, wrote a few lines, and handed it to Luo Yan. Luo Yan took the paper and looked at it carefully. Then, he was shocked and looked at Nanyi with furrowed brows. You. No, I can't agree to it. With that, Luo Yan got up and was about to leave. You have to stay here and recuperate during this period of time. You can't go anywhere. Nanyi tugged at his sleeve and whimpered. Her eyes were filled with pleading. Luo Yan stopped in his tracks. He turned back and met Nanyi's tear-filled eyes. In the past, she often begged him for help like this. Every time he saw this pair of eyes that were very similar to her mother's, his heart would always soften. Father, if Elder Nanyi really has a way, why would he wait until now? No one knew the state of his body better than he did. His yuan meridian was completely broken and could not be repaired. Most of the things he said were just words of comfort. In reality, his heart was already dead. Nan Yifan was at a loss for words. He could tell that this was a huge blow to Nan Yuxing. If they didn't have a feasible solution, Nan Yuxing might not be able to survive. The room was silent. Nan Yuxing suddenly asked. Father, after a while, the entire Nan family will know that I have become a cripple, right? Nan Yifan frowned. Every word in this sentence made him feel incomparably uncomfortable. It's all because your son is useless. I have wasted all your efforts over the years. Nan Yuxing laughed at himself. After a moment of silence, he finally turned his head and looked at Nan Yifan. Father, I want to ask you for a favor. Nan Yifan stepped forward and nodded. Just say it. Nan Yuxing's expression became a little strange. Instead of dragging out an ignoble existence like this, becoming a cripple and being mocked by others, it's better to just die. Nan Yifan's pupils contracted. Nan Yuxing did not seem to notice the change in his father's expression and continued. Those people are unreliable. Why don't you do it yourself? Today, in the future, to the outside world, you can just say that I died from serious injuries, or any other reason will do. Anyway, as long as you don't say that I have become a cripple. The more Nan Yuxing spoke, the brighter his eyes became. He seemed to think that this was a good idea. That excited and even expectant expression made Nan Yifan feel a chill in his heart. Yuxing. What nonsense are you talking about? Nan Yifan shouted harshly. Nan Yifan didn't care about his anger at all, and even laughed in a low voice. You know it too, don't you? If I live like this, I will only become a pitiful and laughable cripple. What's the point of that? It was better to die now. When people talked about him, they would say, it's a pity that he died young. Nan Yuxing really regretted it. Back in the god-slaying tomb, he should have just killed himself. Why did he have to come back and bear all this? Looking at his son's fervent and crazy face, Nan Yifan suddenly could not reprimand him. It was as if something was stuck in his chest, making him feel very uncomfortable. After a long silence, he suddenly said, "Don't worry, Father will help you think of a way." With that, he turned and left. Nan Yuxing looked at his back that disappeared outside the door. The smile on his face gradually faded, and a trace of defeat and self-mockery appeared in his eyes. Since they had already reached such a state, what else could they do? The two guards in charge of guarding the courtyard heard footsteps and looked back. When they saw Nan Yuxing come out so quickly, they were surprised. How long had the family head been in there? It hasn't even been a quarter of an hour, right? He came out so quickly. When Nan Yifan walked closer, they realized that his face was rather ugly. The two looked at each other, then quickly retracted their gazes and waited respectfully. Nan Yifan walked over. When he passed by the two, his footsteps paused. During this period, you must keep a close watch on the eldest young master. If anything happens to the eldest young master, both of you will be buried with him. The two were shocked and quickly responded, "Yes." Only then did Nan Yifan leave. Nan Yifan returned to the study with a heavy heart and sat alone for a long time. In the Divine Ruins world, there was indeed a top figure who might be able to help Nan Yuxing repair his Yuan meridian. But that person was not easy to get along with, and had a very strange temper. Even if he personally went, he might not be able to persuade him. If he had any other choice, he would not want to have anything to do with him. But, when he thought of Nan Yuxing begging him to end his life, Nan Yifan did not care about anything else. After struggling for a long time, when dusk fell, the afterglow of the setting sun shone in through the window. A trace of determination flashed in his eyes, and he finally stood up. Mobile users, please browse for a better reading experience from the Love Network. Chapter 1783. Invite Elder Nan Yi and Elder Wu Ping over. Nan Yifan ordered the people outside. The two elders quickly rushed over and entered the study one after another. Nan Yifan was writing something on the table. "Master." The two elders bowed together. Nan Yifan nodded and didn't stop writing. The two elders tactfully waited in silence. About half an hour later, Nan Yifan finally stopped writing. He picked up the paper and read it carefully before looking at the two elders in front of him. "I invited the two elders here today because I have something important to discuss." Nan Yifan went straight to the point. "I plan to go out for a trip. It will take about 10 days. During this time, I'll leave everything in the family to the two of you." The two elders were astonished. Elder Nan Yi asked, "Where are you going, Master? Is it going to take that long?" Nan Yifan was very strong and could travel quickly. Under normal circumstances, even if he wanted to go out for business, it wouldn't take more than 10 days. Moreover, the Nan family was in an extremely sensitive and critical period. If he left now and something happened, Yuxing's condition can't be delayed any longer. I know someone who might have a way, and I plan to ask him personally. If he can cure Yuxing's illness, that would be the best. If not, then I'll have no regrets. Elder Nan Yi was even more surprised. There's such a person in the world. He was a celestial physician, an extremely powerful existence among celestial physicians. However, he was still helpless in the face of Nan Yuxing's condition. Someone who could cure Nan Yuxing. Wouldn't that be better than him? That was a person who only existed in rumors. If you can really ask this person to cure eldest young master's illness, that would be great. Elder Wu Ping wasn't so optimistic. He glanced at Nan Yifan and saw that he didn't look relaxed. After thinking for a moment, after thinking for a while, he asked, "Master, is this person very difficult to ask?" Nan Yifan smiled bitterly and nodded. It wasn't just difficult to ask, there were many other troubles. This was also why he didn't choose this path when Nan Yuxing was first crippled. If it wasn't for Nan Yuxing's words today, he wouldn't have done it no matter what. Now, there was really no other way. Yuxing and Yi's situation isn't very good right now. Many people in the clan are watching them. You must pay more attention. Before I return, you must not reveal their situation to anyone. Furthermore, my whereabouts this time around are to be kept a secret. If anyone asks, just tell them that I'm in closed-door training. The two elders answered and saluted. Rest assured, Patriarch. Only then did Nan Yifan feel relieved. He handed the piece of paper he had written earlier to Elder Wu Peng. If someone discovers that something is wrong and I haven't returned in time, Wu Peng, you will take over the responsibility of the Patriarch. Chapter 1784. The hall instantly fell silent. Quite a few people looked surprised. Sheng Guanyu. Who is that? It sounds like he's from the princess consort's side. 36 respected Elder Ming's eyes lit up, and he stood up. Hurry up and invite him in. Yes. The guards retreated respectfully. Only the people in the hall were left looking at each other. Respected Elder Pure Dust probed, 36 respected Elder Ming, this Sheng Guanyu, may I know who he is? 36 respected Elder Ming chuckled. He is the princess consort's father. Everyone understood. It was indeed that person from the Tianling dynasty. But, why did he suddenly invite him over? Suddenly, someone seemed to have thought of something. Could it be that His Highness is planning to hold a grand wedding? 36 respected Elder Ming stroked his beard with a smile. This was a tacit agreement. Many people were stunned on the spot, and it took them a while to react. Actually, it was indeed time for His Highness to hold a grand wedding. After all, it had been a long time since the princess consort selection. During this time, His Highness had mentioned a few times that he wanted to hold a grand wedding, but it was delayed by various things. As a result, everyone gradually forgot about this matter. Now that they suddenly heard it, it was inevitable that they would be surprised. No wonder the princess consort's father was invited. Since their daughter was getting married, their parents naturally had to come. Soon, an unfamiliar figure appeared outside the hall. The guard's voice sounded. Everyone turned to look at him. Most of them were curious about what the princess consort's family was like. Sheng Guanyu came to the front of the hall and looked up. The ethereal hall. It was grand and dignified. Even before they entered, they could already feel a heavy pressure pressing down on them silently. Sheng Guanyu recalled what he had seen and heard along the way, and he still felt like he was in a dream. This was the place where Yu was now. Sheng Guanyu had heard of the Divine Ruins world, and later, he learned a lot about it, including the Yuntian Tower. He knew that any sect in the Divine Ruins world was stronger than the Tianling dynasty. Among them, the Yuntian Tower was one of the best. However, when he really arrived here, he realized that everything was even more. For a moment, Sheng Guanyu did not know what words to use to describe his inner feelings. He only felt that something was surging between his chest and abdomen. Lord Shengguan, all the revered elders are waiting inside, please. With a warm smile on his face, Yuemo politely and respectfully invited Sheng Guanyu in. Although Sheng Guanyu was the Tianling emperor, they were currently in the Divine Ruins world, so it was naturally inappropriate for him to address him as such. After thinking for a while, Sheng Guanyu took the initiative to suggest that he should call himself that. Then I'll have to trouble you, 36 esteemed Elder Ming laughed. What's so troublesome about this? Lord Shengguan, just follow me. 36 esteemed Elder Ming actually brought Sheng Guanyu to the innermost part of the hall and pointed to the first seat on the right. Lord Shengguan, please take a seat. Sheng Guanyu hesitated for a moment. I'm afraid, this isn't appropriate, right? In this hall, the chairs were divided into two sides. 36 esteemed Elder Ming sat on the first seat on the left. He asked him to sit on the first seat on the right. 36 esteemed elder Ming said. You're the Princess Yu's father, and your status is honorable. Naturally, you can sit on this seat. Mobile users, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from Love Network. Chapter 1785. Hearing those words, Sheng Wanyu pondered for a moment before taking a seat. He vaguely knew a little about Rong Xiu's background. Even though he was the holy son of the Yuntian Tower, he had lost his parents. Only 36 esteemed elder Ming could be considered his elder and kin. No one was more qualified than 36 esteemed elder Ming to sit in this position. As for himself, it was because of Yu'er. Yu'emo stood behind Sheng Wanyu and introduced the people in the hall one by one. Sheng Wanyu greeted them one by one. On the way here, Yu'emo had told him many things about the Yuntian Tower, including the temperament of the elders, their likes and dislikes, and so on. As such, even though this was Sheng Wanyu's first time here, he was very considerate in every aspect, making it impossible for anyone to find fault with him. Some people originally wanted to find out something from Sheng Wanyu, but they were all solved by Sheng Wanyu with little effort. It was only then that everyone realized that even though Sheng Wanyu was born outside of the divine ruins world, his wits and means were on par with those present. After a round of banter, the crowd gradually calmed down. Everyone began to wait for the return of Rong Xiu and the others. At the foot of Bright Reversal Peak, a few young men and women were descending the mountain. Each of them was carrying a dark green wine jar in their arms. 36 esteemed elder Ming sure is picky. The ethereal hall has already stored the wine, but he still wants us to retrieve it from the clear Jiuquan. The wine of the clear Jiuquan was extraordinary. It had to be stored in specially made wine jars, and it couldn't be stored in a universe ring. It had to be carried on one's shoulders. The few trips had depleted quite a bit of their origin energy. A tall and thin young man wiped the sweat off his forehead. This was already his second trip to retrieve the wine. A round-faced woman beside him harumphed. It's because the elders think highly of us that they allowed us to go. Otherwise, given our standing, it would be difficult for us to even enter the ethereal hall. I heard that it's beneficial to our cultivation. What benefits? He's just trying to coax you. The tall and skinny man interrupted her impatiently, his face full of disapproval. If revered elder is really thinking for us, why don't you just give us some good pills or divine tools? Which one isn't stronger than this one? In his opinion, this was just hard work to serve others. The round-faced woman wasn't convinced, but she couldn't argue with him. After all, this was her first time doing this, so she wasn't sure if it was really beneficial to her cultivation. She paused for a moment before saying, even if there are no benefits, this is what we should do. His Highness, the Holy Sun, and the Princess Consort are coming back today, and there are also important guests. Of course, the wine has to be the best. Honored guest. Are you talking about that Sheng Wanyu? The tall and thin man laughed. Haven't you noticed that he's just a demigod? He's not even a true god-level expert. How could such a person become a distinguished guest of our Yuntian Tower if it wasn't for his great luck and the princess's blessing? The disdain in his voice was undisguised. The round-faced woman didn't expect his words to be so direct and unpleasant. She was stunned for a moment. A moment later, she stammered. But he's still the princess consort's father. Don't you think it's inappropriate for you to say that? What's inappropriate about it? Aren't I speaking the truth? The tall and thin man lifted the wine jar in his hand and sneered. In the world of gods, the strong are respected. He doesn't have the strength to back it up, so no one will think highly of him. Do you think that all of the elders in the ethereal hall are respectful toward him? I dare say that most of them don't think much of Sheng Wanyu at all. The round-faced woman was rendered speechless. Those words were unpleasant to the ears, but they made sense. The reason why they were so polite was because of the Holy Son and the princess consort. However, if one were to talk about the Holy Son of the ethereal hall, there were only a handful of them who truly acknowledged and welcomed him. The other woman who had been silent all this while spoke up. No matter how strong he is, he's still the princess consort's father. Regardless of how powerful he is, his standing in our Yuntian tower won't be low. Besides, the Holy Son is married to Miss Shangwan. No matter what, Miss Shangwan is outstanding in all aspects. She was beautiful, and her words were gentle. Hearing her words, the tall and thin man's expression softened significantly. You're right. Actually, I just feel that. Your Highness, marrying this consort is still a little. He paused for a moment. There are many noble ladies in the world of gods who admire our Holy Son. If we can form a marriage alliance with them, the situation will be very different. The smile on the woman's face remained unchanged. Our princess consort is also outstanding, isn't she? That senior Shangwan Jing is a supremacy blacksmith. A supremacy blacksmith is indeed formidable, but compared to those sects with deep foundations, the tall and thin man shook his head. He didn't finish his words, but the meaning behind his words was clear. The round-faced woman glanced at the two of them and said hesitantly. But I heard from the revered elders that other than Shangwan Yu, the Holy Son has invited many of the princess consort's friends to his wedding. His Highness values the princess consort a lot. The tall and thin man didn't think much of it. The princess consort has no foundation in the world of gods. Naturally, he has to invite more people to make it more lively. Otherwise, wouldn't the scene be unbearable? The beautiful woman smiled. That's enough. These are not things we can discuss. It's fine to talk about it in private, but don't let others hear it. Let's go. If we wait any longer, we won't have time to get the wine. After saying that, she took the lead and walked forward. The remaining two didn't say anything else and followed behind her. After their figures gradually disappeared into the distance, the void fluctuated, and a figure walked out. She was wearing a red dress, and her figure was slender and exquisite. Her black hair hung down, which made her snow-white face even more beautiful. It was Chu Luiyue. She looked in the direction where those people left and raised her eyebrows slightly, revealing a mysterious smile. It seemed that many people in the Yuntian Tower had such thoughts. Mobile users, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from the Love Network. Chu Luiyue turned around and saw that Rong Xiao had unknowingly appeared behind her. He had also changed into a snow-white robe. Even though his previous set was also very clean. Have you been waiting for long? Previously, they had agreed to meet here. Chu Luiyue shook her head with a smile. No, I just arrived. Rong Xiao walked closer. Standing here, he could even smell the faint fragrance of her body after bathing. When he lowered his eyes slightly, he could see her beautiful face. Under her smooth and full forehead were two fan-like thick and long eyelashes. Her nose was tall and straight, and he could vaguely see her cherry lips. After this period of running around, she seemed to have slimmed down, but her figure seemed to have become more slender, tall, and exquisite. Unknowingly, the youthful aura of a young girl had already disappeared. She was like a flower that was gradually blooming, gradually revealing her beauty and brilliance. Just a glance was enough to make one's heart waver. She was becoming more and more similar to her previous appearance. Rong Xiao, you. At this moment, Shangwan Jing and the others had also rushed over. Earlier, Rong Xiao had specially arranged a place for them to tidy up. Thus, at this moment, the three of them were no longer haggard, and they looked much more energetic. Rong Xiao's lips curled up. Since everyone is here, let's head to the ethereal hall together. His Highness Inceptive Sage has arrived. His Highness Consort has arrived. Everyone who was waiting in the ethereal hall could not help but widen their eyes in shock. Everyone turned their gazes toward the entrance. Two figures were walking in side by side. The man on the left was dressed in a snow-white robe. He had a tall figure and a seductive appearance. However, he exuded an indescribable elegance that made one subconsciously look up to him. The woman standing by his side wore a red dress that fluttered in the wind. She was slender, tall, and peerlessly beautiful. She clearly had an extremely beautiful and exquisite appearance, yet her eyes were clear, and penetrating. She faintly carried a piercingly cold heroic aura, and it was especially eye-catching. The two of them walked side by side against the light, and they appeared before everyone's eyes together. A faint layer of light shrouded their bodies. At a glance, it was as though two immortals had arrived hand in hand. What a pair! At this moment, everyone in the hall couldn't help but be impressed. Putting everything aside, just in terms of appearance and disposition, the two of them were indeed a perfect match. Just looking at them like this was enough to delight one's eyes. 36 Esteemed Elder Ming was the first to react. He stood up with a smile and walked over to greet them. "Welcome back, Your Highness Inceptive Sage and Princess Consort." As soon as he moved, everyone immediately reacted and bowed as well. "We welcome back, Your Highness Inceptive Sage and Princess Consort." Chu Liuyue's gaze skipped over these people and landed on the figure at the deepest part of the hall. She couldn't be any more familiar with that figure and that appearance. Sheng Guanyu stood up and wanted to walk over, but he realized that his heart was pounding furiously. His legs had stiffened, and he was unable to move at all. His eyes were fixated on the face that he had been thinking about day and night. With trembling lips, he finally managed to call out, "Yuer." Mobile users, please browse for a better reading experience from LoveNet. Chapter 1787. Chu Liuyue's eyes stung as she walked over quickly. "Father." Seeing that she had moved, Sheng Guanyu hurried over. The father and daughter were speechless when they saw each other. Sheng Guanyu looked at her from head to toe, and something seemed to be surging in his eyes. After a while, he said, You've lost weight." Thousands of words condensed in his chest, but his throat was extremely dry. In the end, he could only say such a short sentence. There was a slight tremor in his voice. Chu Liyue blinked, and the tears in her eyes disappeared. She smiled brightly. "Long time no see." "Father, how are you?" Sheng Guanyu hurriedly said. Good. Father, everything is fine. Tianling is also fine. I just miss you." How could he not miss her? When they parted last time, he thought that she would only stay in the world of divine ruins for a short period of time and would return soon. Who knew that so much time had passed in the blink of an eye? She didn't go back, but he came here. Is it too hard for you here?" Sheng Guanyu looked at her face, which had obviously lost a little weight, and his heart ached. Chu Liyue smiled like a flower. "Father, you're worrying too much. Look at me, my strength has increased a lot." Sheng Guanyu noticed that her aura had indeed increased a lot compared to when they parted. You've broken through to the high god level?" Sheng Guanyu asked in shock. Chu Liyue nodded and then took his hand. "It's a long story. I'll explain it to you in detail when we have time later." Her father knew almost nothing about everything that had happened to her in the world of divine ruins. He didn't know that she had broken through to the high god level when she came to the world of divine ruins a few years ago. She didn't tell her father before because she was afraid that he would be worried. But now, it was indeed time to tell him. Sheng Guanyu nodded vigorously. "I'll listen to you. As long as you're willing to tell me, I'm willing to listen." Chu Liyue's heart warmed. At this time, Rong Xiao also came forward and saluted Shengguan Yu. I haven't formally introduced myself to you before. Junior Rong Xiao, the holy son of the Yuntian Tower, greets Lord Shengguan. Rong Xiao's attitude was very respectful and polite. Shengguan Yu looked at him with emotion. In fact, he already knew that Rong Xiao's identity was unusual, but he didn't expect it to be even more shocking than he expected. The ruler of a first-rate family, the famous war god of the divine ruins world. In the past, he only thought that Rong Xiao was gentle, polite, and had an extraordinary temperament. No matter what situation he encountered, he was always calm and collected. Now that he saw Rong Xiao again, Shengguan Yu finally realized that Rong Xiao's calm aura was the reason for his strong abilities. How could an ordinary person have such an aura? I'll have to trouble you to take care of you, during this period. Shengguan Yu said. Rong Xiao chuckled. This is what Rong Xiao should do. Of course, he would protect his woman. Shengguan Yu breathed a sigh of relief. Originally, he was a little worried that the gap between their identities was a little big, but judging from Rong Xiao's attitude, he didn't have to worry about this. Yu didn't misjudge him. At this moment, another announcement was heard. Everyone in the hall turned their heads and saw 3 figures walking towards them. Many people knew the one at the front. It was the famous Shengguan Jing. The old man beside him had white hair and a sage-like demeanor. The aura on his body was also not to be underestimated. It was the dean of Lingshao College, Nan Suhuai. Nan Suhuai was very famous, but not many people had seen him before. After all, only a few people in the entire Yuntian Tower had been to Lingshao College. In the past few years, Nan Suhuai had disappeared without a trace. He hadn't appeared much, so there were even fewer people who knew him. Many people were surprised. As the dean of Lingshao College, Nan Suhuai had always maintained a neutral attitude. He rarely went to other aristocratic families in the divine ruins world. But now, he had come directly to Yuntian Tower. Did he come for Shengguan Yu? Some people glanced at the red-clothed woman standing in the middle of the hall. They had heard that Shengguan Yu was actually Nan Suhuai's personal disciple. Moreover, Nan Suhuai valued and doted on her a lot. Now it seemed that the rumors were true. Nan Suhuai came to Yuntian Tower for her without hesitation. His appearance with Shengguan Jing was enough to show his position. He was here to support Shengguan Yu. The people in the hall exchanged greetings with Shengguan Jing and Nan Suhuai one after another. However, when they saw the third person, they were surprised and at a loss. Who was this person? Chu Ning frowned slightly when he sensed those sizing up gazes, but he quickly returned to normal. Indeed, he was the person with the lowest background here. If it wasn't for you, he wouldn't even have the chance to go to the Tianling dynasty, let alone come to the divine ruins world and be in the same room with people from a first-rate aristocratic family like Yuntian Tower. If it was in the past, he might have been nervous and perturbed when facing this situation. But now, he wasn't. He had experienced too much during this period of time. Countless pain and torture couldn't make him bow his head. Now, this was just a small matter. He had to admit that although those nightmarish days had brought him deep pain, it had indeed caused him to change greatly from the inside out. He had never thought of that before, but now, he felt that it was just a so-so. Because of this, Chu Ning's attitude was exceptionally magnanimous. He stood beside Shengguan Jing and Nan Suhuai. Although his aura couldn't be compared to theirs, his calm attitude didn't lose out at all. Someone couldn't help but whisper. Strange, he's just a stage 1 warrior. How can he have such an aura? A stage 1 warrior was even worse than many children in Yuntian Tower. However, his expression was magnanimous as if he didn't feel embarrassed at all. Many people heard this. Chu Luiyue raised her eyebrows slightly. Perhaps because he was afraid of Rong Xiao and the others, the person who spoke was actually quite polite. However, it was hard to say what he was thinking. Chu Luiyue was calm and composed, and she wasn't angry. She knew what these people were really thinking, and she also understood why they had such a reaction. But there was nothing to be concerned about. Chu Ning had the indestructible divine body. As long as he cultivated well, he would definitely advance by leaps and bounds. At that time, many of the people here would probably be defeated by him. Father, let me introduce you. Chu Luiyue pulled Sheng Wanyu over. Since you know Taizu, I won't say much. This is the dean of Lingshao College, and also my master. And this is my father when I was in Yaoqin. Her words sounded a little awkward. Sheng Wanyu looked enlightened. You are Chu Ning. Chu Ning also understood the identity of the person in front of him when he heard Chu Luiyue address him. His heart tightened slightly. Yes. Mobile users, please browse for a better reading experience from Love Network. Chapter 1788. Chu Ning had been able to remain calm in the face of so many people's scrutiny and doubts. However, he suddenly became nervous when facing Sheng Wanyu. He was nervous mainly because Sheng Wanyu's identity was too special. He was Yu Er's father. He had thought about this when he found out about Yu Er's real identity. Now that they met, he realized that it was more awkward than expected. Chu Ning didn't know what identity he should use to face Sheng Wanyu. However, when Sheng Wanyu heard that, he suddenly took half a step back and bowed deeply to Chu Ning. Chu Ning was shocked and hurriedly said, "No." Sheng Wanyu's status was higher than his, and he was Yu Er's real father. He really didn't dare to accept this bow. However, Sheng Wanyu was very insistent. He stood up and sincerely said after he finished bowing, "I'm sorry, but I'm sorry, but I'm sorry. Chu Ning, thank you for taking care of Yu Er previously." He knew that many things had happened to Yu Er when she was in Yaoqin. If not for Chu Ning's protection, Yu would have suffered a lot. When he was lying unconscious in the Tianling Palace, it was Chu Ning who gave Yu Er a home. His heart was filled with endless gratitude towards Chu Ning. Chu Ning's emotions surged when he heard these words. He didn't expect Sheng Wanyu to think this way. He thought that, Chu Ning, it's Yu Er's blessing to have a father like you. Sheng Wanyu said sincerely. Chu Ning was shocked and suddenly looked up at Sheng Wanyu. What he meant was, seeing Chu Ning's expression, Chu Luiyue seemed to have something surging in her heart and almost drowning her. She held Chu Ning's hand and said, "Father, I've already told father before that no matter who I am, I'm still your daughter." She had occupied the real Chu Luiyue's body and received the fatherly love that should have belonged to that girl. Therefore, she was Chu Ning's daughter. It didn't matter if she was Chu Luiyue or Sheng Wanyu. The porridge that he had cooked for her, the constant concern for her, the courage and determination to protect her time and time again, that was enough. She was father's daughter and Yu Er. Chu Ning's heart seemed to be choked by something. He looked at Chu Luiyue and then at Sheng Wanyu. Their expressions were so sincere that he almost thought he was in a dream. He had once thought that he would lose Yu Er. But in the end, "Father, don't you want Yu Er anymore?" Chu Luiyue blinked and asked. "How could this be?" Chu Ning hurriedly denied. "As long as Yu Er wants it, father will always be by your side." As he said this, the weight in Chu Ning's chest suddenly dissipated. In an instant, he felt as if his entire body was smooth and comfortable. This was how it should be. No matter what, he would still love Yu Er dearly in the future. Seeing that Chu Ning was truly relieved, Chu Luiyue also felt much more at ease. To be able to receive two sets of fatherly love was her luck and blessing. Rong Xiao watched from the side and a smile appeared on his handsome face. Since she was happy, he was happy too. Although there were many twists and turns in the middle, everything was finally perfect now. He could see that she was really happy. After they exchanged a few more pleasantries, Rongxiu said, "Now that the dust has settled and all the elders are here, let's start preparing for the wedding." All the revered elders had already guessed his plan, so when they heard this, they weren't too surprised and all agreed. In fact, Rongxiu had already sent people to prepare for this matter long ago, so even if the notice was rather sudden, Yuntian Tower could still arrange everything in an extremely short time. Rongxiu gave a few more instructions, no matter how big or small. 36 Revered Elder Ming asked, "Your Highness, the people to be invited for the wedding." Rongxiu handed over a list of names. "The list of people to be invited is here. Just go and invite them according to this. The invitations are with Yan Qing. Let him distribute them later." 36 Revered Elder Ming's mouth twitched unnoticeably. Logically speaking, the guest list should be discussed and decided by the revered elders of the clan, but His Highness had already written it down. He really didn't want to wait for even a moment, 36 Revered Elder Ming thought as he opened the list. After taking a few glances, he suddenly opened his eyes wide and looked at Rongxiu in shock. "Your Highness, this," everyone looked over curiously. What was so special about the list to make 36 Revered Elder Ming, who was always calm, react so intensely? Sensing those gazes, 36 Revered Elder Ming swallowed his saliva and tried his best to ask tactfully, "Your Highness, this list, isn't it a little too many?" His Highness really didn't make up this list randomly. Putting aside those clans and sects that were on good terms with Yuntian Tower, there were also some that weren't on good terms with them, and even some that had quarreled with them before. His Highness was planning to invite all the important figures in the entire Divine Ruins world. Rongxiu raised his eyebrows slightly. "Too many? I don't think so. A wedding should be lively, shouldn't it?" 36 Revered Elder Ming was speechless. His Highness's words, "There doesn't seem to be anything wrong. But the key was that some of the people on the list might not come. If they came, it might be even more troublesome." As if seeing through his thoughts, Rongxiu's thin lips curled up and he said calmly, "I will only hold this wedding once in my life. Naturally, I have to do it well and announce it to the world." He wanted everyone in the Divine Ruins world to know. Was his. Mobile users, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from Love Network. Chapter 1789. The entire Yuntian Tower became busy. The Holy Sun's wedding was a big event for the entire clan. Everyone was naturally mobilized and did not dare to slack off. During this period of time, Chu Luiyue became the most leisurely person. As the wedding was imminent, she did not stay with Rongxiu in the sacrificial god hole. Instead, she stayed in Changi Mountain, which was beside Duming Peak. There were many courtyards on Changi Mountain, and most of them were scattered, so Sheng Guanyu and the rest stayed there. At the very beginning, Chu Luiyue had even specially picked a suitable time to tell Sheng Guanyu about everything that had happened. Of course, most of it was good. As for some of the more troublesome parts, most of it was skipped. Anyway, those things were already in the past, and there was no point in talking about it. It would only make father sad. Even so, Sheng Guanyu's heart still ached after hearing it. This made Chu Luiyue even more grateful for her previous choice. On the other hand, Chu Ning had been staying in his room ever since he came to Changi Mountain. On one hand, he wanted to let Chu Luiyue and Sheng Guanyu catch up. On the other hand, he also wanted to concentrate on his cultivation. After coming to the Yuntian Tower, he realized that the strong were indeed respected here. If he stayed as a rank 1 warrior, not only would he be looked down upon, but he would also implicate you. Therefore, he put almost all of his thoughts and energy into this. Fortunately, he had the indestructible divine body now, and his talent had a qualitative leap. In addition, the Yuntian Tower was full of energy, which was very beneficial for cultivation. Chu Ning's cultivation speed could be said to be 1,000 miles a day. On the second day, he directly broke through to become a rank 2 warrior. On the 5th day, he jumped to become a rank 3 warrior. On the 8th day, he jumped to become a rank 4 warrior. His physical body was the divine body. When he cultivated, the absorption and digestion of the surrounding energy was no different from a real high god. In this way, it was a piece of cake for him to raise his warrior rank. As his strength rapidly increased, Chu Ning's mood became better and better. At this rate, it wouldn't take long for him to complete his breakthrough and become a true high god. Although a high god expert wasn't considered a top cultivator in the divine ruins world, it was still a huge improvement for Chu Ning. When he was in Yao Qin, he never thought that he would be able to reach the legendary realm one day. And all of this was because he had met Yu. As long as he could become stronger, he would be able to protect Yu in the future. Chu Luiyue also focused on cultivating in his residence. Rong Xiao had long arranged everything for the wedding ceremony, and there was no need for her to interfere in any of the major and minor matters. Father was far away in Tianling, and he had been here for a few days. Mu Hongyu was at Lingxiao College, so she should have arrived earlier. She didn't know why she was delayed until now. Mu Hongyu cupped her hands pitifully. I was delayed by something at the last minute. Lu Yu, you won't blame me, right? Chu Luiyue raised her chin. Tell me first. What was delayed? At the mention of this, Mu Hongyu's face fell. Actually, it's nothing. I've been busy breaking through recently. Chu Luiyue. This is your reason. Mu Hongyu coughed. Actually, it's not completely like that. It's just that some things have happened in the academy recently. Chu Luiyue narrowed her eyes. She felt that something was wrong. Mu Hongyu had always been passionate and enthusiastic about cultivation. Her aura had indeed strengthened. She must have succeeded in her death. If that was the case, why did she have such an expression? What happened in the academy? She had been very busy recently, so she didn't know much about the situation in the academy. Mu Hongyu hesitated for a while and stood up anxiously. Sigh, it's actually not a big deal. It's just that Jian Fengqi also came to the academy. Mobile users, please browse for a better reading experience from Love Network. Chapter 1790. Chu Luiyue froze for a moment. Who are you talking about? Jian Fengqi. Mu Hongyu rubbed her temples with a headache. I don't know how he got to Fangzhou City and got into the Lingxiao Academy. It happened a few days ago. Chu Luiyue came back to her senses. She was also quite shocked by this matter. He took the Celestial Physician's exam. Mu Hongyu nodded. Chu Luiyue nodded in understanding. Jian Fengqi was indeed very talented in this area. Even compared to her, he was not much worse. It was normal for him to be able to get into Lingxiao College. This is a good thing. Jian Fengqi had helped her a lot in the past. Now that he was able to enter Lingxiao College to cultivate, his future would be limitless. No matter how she thought about it, this was something to be happy about. But why did Mu Hongyu look a little upset? Mu Hongyu rubbed her face in confusion. This is a good thing for him, but for me, Mu Hongyu was a little hesitant to say something. Chu Luiyue asked again. Did Jian Fengqi make things difficult for you? It didn't seem very likely. Jian Fengqi was quite good to them back then, no, but Mu Hongyu's face turned slightly red. Chu Luiyue was very perceptive and quickly guessed something. If I remember correctly, he seems to have your indenture contract from back then. Mu Hongyu saw that she guessed correctly and didn't hesitate anymore. Yes. He has been making trouble for me with this matter. Trouble? Chu Luiyue was stunned for a moment, then quickly understood, and her expression became a little strange. Mu Hongyu was even more embarrassed under her gaze. Lu Yu, help me think of a way. Chu Luyue paused for a moment. Then what did he say and do? Mu Hongyu choked. Just say that I ran away. He wasn't happy. He even said, she bit her lip. Chu Luyue had already guessed the gist of it. He couldn't help but shake his head and smile. Mu Hongyu was stunned. Lu Yu, what are you laughing at? Chu Luyue tapped her forehead. I'm laughing at your stupidity. Jian Fengqi was so pitiful. Hongyu, don't tell me you only found out now that Jian Fengqi likes you. Mu Hongyu was stunned, but her face turned even redder. After a while, she said in a flustered and helpless manner, I don't know. Seeing her reaction, Chu Luyue silently shed tears of sympathy for Jian Fengqi. Mu Hongyu had a straightforward personality and was intelligent and quick-witted. However, when it came to matters of the heart, she was obviously stubborn. If Jian Fengqi wasn't interested in her, he wouldn't have spent so much money to redeem her, and he wouldn't have helped her time and time again. Chu Luyue didn't notice it at first, but now that he thought about it, he immediately realized something. Even he could tell that Mu Hongyu, the person involved, was extremely muddle-headed. The few guards reacted and immediately saluted. Chu Luyue indicated for them to dispense with the formalities. I'll handle it. As she spoke, she looked at little 8. Speak, what did you bring me? She actually caused such trouble because of this. Little Hachi's red lips curled slightly and immediately revealed a smug smile. Of course it's a good treasure. Master will definitely like it. She clasped her hands together and shook them lightly. The broken jade beads on her wrist jingled, crisp and pleasant to the ear. Then, a wooden box suddenly appeared. Mobile users, please browse for a better reading experience from Love Network. Chapter 1792. The wooden box was about the size of a palm and was completely black. Only the edges were suffused with a faint silver. Especially at the 8 corners, there was a special pattern of flowers and vines. At a glance, it was luxurious and exquisite. Little Hachi handed the wooden box over and raised her eyebrows. Master, quickly open it and take a look. There's really good stuff inside. Chu Luyue curiously took the wooden box. Little Hachi was very talented as a celestial physician. She especially liked to study strange prescriptions. Otherwise, she wouldn't have been able to help Chihan refine a pill that could change his aura. For her to hand it over like a treasure, it must be something extraordinary. Suddenly, Chu Luyue's eyes narrowed. Only then did she see that the flower vines on the wooden box were undergoing subtle changes. The vines and leaves moved silently, as if they were being blown by the wind. During this process, what was even more shocking was that the wooden box was actually starting to melt bit by bit. Like an ice cube that would gradually melt under the scorching sun, the wooden box started to shrink at a speed visible to the naked eye after little Hachi took it out. However, no water dripped from it. It was as if it had mysteriously evaporated and disappeared. She looked at little Hachi suspiciously. Little Hachi hurriedly said, Tianya. I already said that this thing can't be taken out casually. If the box is gone, the thing inside will be ruined. As she spoke, she urged Chu Luyue to open it. The wooden box wasn't locked. Chu Luyue moved her fingers and opened it. A red elixir the size of a longan fruit was lying quietly inside. The pill's color was pure and rich, and it emitted a faint medicinal fragrance. However, there were no markings on the pill that represented its grade. There was only a small flower vine leaf pattern. It was exactly the same as the one on the wooden box. Chu Luyue was stunned at first. Then, she suddenly realized something and looked at little Hachi in shock. Master, it wasn't easy for me to refine this. It must have been hard on you to bring it all the way here. Little Hachi looked at her and saw the crux of the matter. She blinked and a pair of soft and boneless hands climbed onto Chu Liuyue's arm. She leaned against her and said in a gentle voice, Master, how do you plan to reward little Hachi? Chu Liuyue's eyelids twitched. Little Eight was a natural demon. Her eyes were filled with a myriad of emotions. No matter where she went, she was the most eye-catching. Over the years, she had been seducing her, but she didn't give them a second glance. On the other hand, every time she met Chu Liyue, she would always stick to Chu Liyue seductively. After all, they hadn't seen each other for a few years. Chu Liyue almost couldn't take it when this happened so suddenly. Of course, Chu Liyue, Ling Shao Academy's herb garden is for you to use for 1 month. Really? Little Hachi's eyes lit up and she was overjoyed. Master, you're the best to me. She had been coveting that herb garden for a long time. It was a pity that her master had always valued that herb garden and was reluctant to let her use it. This time, it was finally a success. Seeing little Hachi sticking to Chu Liyue and acting coquettishly, Yan Qing couldn't help but frown. Why was this woman like this? Chu Liyue took out the pill and was about to swallow it. Yan Qing tried to dissuade her. Princess consort, this pill, what if there was a problem? Chu Liyue smiled and said, Little Hachi is mine. Don't worry. Little Hachi glared at Yan Qing. This pill was specially refined by me to help Master refine his divine body. You don't know anything. Why are you here to cause trouble? Yan Qing glanced at little Hachi indifferently. His face was still expressionless, as if he didn't care about what she was saying at all. Since the princess consort said that she was trustworthy, then there shouldn't be a problem. It wasn't appropriate for him to continue speaking. But, the princess consort's subordinates were all rather special. Yan Qing's eyes swept across Cini and the rest without batting an eyelid, but he quickly retracted his gaze. Seeing that Yan Qing actually didn't care about her, little Hachi was instantly enraged. You, Chu Liyue pressed her hand. She knew that Yan Qing had always been like this. It wasn't that he was targeting little Hachi. Little Hachi could only suppress the anger in her heart and snort. What do you people know? If Master uses this pill of mine, he will refine his divine body in less than a year. As soon as he said this, the guards secretly looked at each other and revealed a tacit smile. This woman was so boastful. It was a pity that she wasn't that smart. There were many high god experts in the divine ruins world, and there were also many pills that could help one break through to the high god level. But they had never heard of a pill in this world that could guarantee that one could refine their divine body in less than a year after using it. This woman was too good at bragging. Chu Liyue's gaze quickly swept across the few of them, and she easily guessed their thoughts. The corners of her lips curled up slightly as she chuckled softly and looked away. At this moment, the wooden box in her hand had completely dissipated. Since the item has been verified and I have used it, can you let them in now? The guards hurriedly bowed. Yes. Princess consort, please. Everyone, please. No matter what, they had to give face to the princess consort. Chu Liyue nodded at Cini and the rest. This time, they entered in a single file, and the barrier didn't produce any abnormal fluctuations. Chu Liyue's gaze swept across them and smiled. Since you're here, follow me to Changi Mountain first. I haven't seen you for a while, so let's have a good chat. With that, she turned and walked in the direction of Changi Mountain. The others followed closely behind. It was only when their figures gradually disappeared into the distance that the guards finally relaxed. Pfft. That girl called Little Eight just now was really arrogant and unbridled. She was full of nonsense. How could there be such a pill in this world? Didn't she do her homework before spouting nonsense? Saying it out loud would be a joke for no reason. I heard that they are the same as the princess consort, also from the Tianling dynasty. They probably think that we are as ignorant as the ordinary people from their place, right? Ha! So they are from outside the divine ruins world. No wonder. I really don't know how the princess consort chooses people to take in such people as her subordinates. Didn't you see the youngest youth over there? He looks to be only 13 or 14 years old. He's just a teenager. What can he do? I'm guessing that the princess consort chose these people for fun. Ha, I hope they don't cause any trouble. However, this seems to be a little difficult. They haven't even entered yet, but they've already caused a ruckus. Who knows what those people will do in the future? The guards shook their heads in disapproval. The princess consort is very outstanding. This is indisputable. It's a pity that there are too many people dragging her down. Mobile users, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from Love Network. Chapter 1793. Yan Qing escorted Chu Luiyue and the others to Changyi Mountain before bidding farewell and leaving with Yuemo. The princess consort and her subordinates would definitely have a lot to talk about. It was naturally inappropriate for outsiders to be present. Little Hachi pursed her red lips as she watched Yan Qing and Yumo's departing figures. He ran fast. If not for her master's sake, she would have already made a move just now. Chu Luiyue smiled as she brought the few of them back to her yard. Yan Qing and Yuemo are both nice people. He said that just now because he was concerned about my safety. Little Hachi, don't take it to heart. Who would care about that ice-cold face? Little Hachi rolled her eyes, her face full of disdain. Hypocrite. This was the kind of person she hated the most. Chu Luiyue glanced at her and knew that she was still dissatisfied with Yan Qing. He chuckled softly and didn't continue to persuade her. Little Hachi might have a strange temper, but she was extremely smart. Now that they were in Yuntian Tower's territory, she wouldn't really get into a fight with them. Chu Luiyue pushed open the door and entered, but Mu Hongyu stopped at the door. Lu Yu, why don't you guys talk first? I won't disturb you. She could tell that these people followed Lu Yu's lead blindly. They had traveled thousands of miles to come here, so they definitely had a lot to talk about between master and servant. Chu Luiyue thought about it and didn't continue to keep her. He nodded. All right. Mu Hongyu sized them up curiously one last time, then quietly closed the door and left alone. Only Chu Luiyue, Xin Yi, and the others were left in the room. Greetings, master. They bowed in unison. Chu Luiyue chuckled and said, It's been a long time. It's been a long time since we last met. You must have had a hard time coming here this time. There's no need to stand on ceremony. Little Hachi walked over with seductive steps. Master still loves us dearly. Chu Luiyue raised his eyebrows and glanced at her. There are no outsiders here. Stand properly. Little Hachi pouted and stomped her feet like a spoiled child. Master is about to get married, so he doesn't care about little Hachi anymore. Chu Luiyue helplessly held his forehead. She really didn't know what to do with little Hachi. Xin Yi glanced indifferently at little Hachi. Little Hachi suddenly became alert. She snorted, but still stood there obediently. In this world, only Xin Yi could subdue her. It wasn't because of anything else. It was because Xin Yi was much stronger than her. Furthermore, he attacked without mercy. Even Chu Luiyue's heart couldn't help but soften when faced with such a beautiful face. However, Xin Yi would never be like that. If he said that he would dislocate little Hachi's left arm, it definitely wouldn't be her right arm that would be dislocated. Hence, little Hachi was still a little respectful towards Xin Yi. Now that 6 of them had come, it was indeed quite good. Xin Yi looked at her and asked. Master, have you regained your memories? Chu Luiyue nodded. Since she had broken through to become a supreme god again and summoned back the divine realm, she had naturally regained her memories. Tsini nodded. In fact, they had already guessed this before, but this was a serious matter, so they still had to confirm it before they could truly be at ease. Chu Luiyue asked them a few more questions, and everyone answered them one by one. She also briefly told them about some of the things that had happened recently. Wu Yao looked ashamed. I didn't expect Master to have suffered so much here. It's all our fault for coming too late. Chu Luiyue smiled nonchalantly. Misfortune is a blessing in disguise. Although there were some twists and turns in the middle, fortunately, everything was daunting but not dangerous. Moreover, I gained more than I lost. Overall, it was actually a good thing. 13 clenched his fists. Master, then after this, we won't go back. We'll stay in the divine ruins world with you. We'll protect you well. Xin Yi's expression changed slightly when he heard this, and he looked at Chu Luiyue. Master, what do you plan to do after this? Chu Luiyue knew what he was asking. She paused but didn't immediately answer this question. Instead, her lips curled up in a smile. I have a friend who has been researching how to build a teleportation formation. If you have time, go and teach him. Tsini nodded. Yes. Mobile users, please browse for a better reading experience from Love Network. Chapter 1794. Chu Luiyue asked with a smile. You didn't even ask who he was and agreed to it directly. Tsini nodded. Since he's your friend, there's naturally no problem. There weren't many people who could make her truly recognize this person as a friend. Chu Luiyue smiled helplessly and shook her head. Xin Yi was too smart, and sometimes she seemed a little boring. The friend she was referring to was naturally Lin Qifei. He didn't come this time, but she had already asked Mu Hongyu previously. Recently, Lin Qifei had been busy with the teleportation array in the academy, just like before. According to Mu Hongyu, Lin Qifei's strength had increased greatly recently, and the teleportation array was already built. Some of the elders in the academy knew about it and were full of praise for him. However, they all thought that Lin Qifei was so diligent in studying the teleportation array because he was interested in it. But in reality, everything was because of a promise between him and Chu Luiyue. It seemed that things were progressing well. It's only a few days until the wedding. During this time, you can stay at Chang'e Mountain. I've already ordered people to tidy it up for you. If there's anything, just look for me directly. Little Hachi blinked her seductive eyes and moved closer to Chu Luiyue with a smile. Master, I've only heard of this Yuntian Tower before, but I've never been here. I wonder, as long as you don't cause trouble, you can stroll around here as you wish. Chu Luiyue immediately guessed what she was thinking and directly gave her an answer. Little Hachi's smile grew even wider. I knew Master was the best. Have you heard? A few of the princess consort subordinates from the Tianling dynasty are also here. Just now, there seemed to be an argument at the barrier. This news has already spread throughout the Yuntian Tower. Who doesn't know? Didn't you say that it was because one of the women had something on her that caused the barrier to react abnormally and stop them? Hey, that's what I want to say. Do you know what it is that woman is unwilling to hand over? What? Pills. She also said that as long as the princess consort uses that pill, she'll definitely be able to temper her divine body within a year. What? There's such a pill in the world. Why don't we know about it? She's probably just trying to put up a front. After all, she's from outside the divine ruins world. On a mountain peak not far from Duming Peak, a few people were walking up while talking about something. Although the Yuntian Tower was vast, the news spread among the clan members was fast. Not long after the incident happened over there, many people knew it they had nothing to say about Chu Luiyue. Her talent was extraordinary, her strength was also strong, and her appearance was one in a million, a beauty that could topple cities. His only shortcoming was his family background. Actually, I feel that the princess consort is not without a backer. Senior Sheng Wanjing's name was resounding back then. Even now, a venerable blacksmith is very rare and honorable in the entire divine ruins world. Moreover, the princess consort is the direct disciple of the dean of Lingxiao College. She's also very powerful. Someone had a different opinion and refuted in a low voice. That's right, but think about it carefully. Senior Sheng Wanjing is weak, and Dean Nan. His words and actions represent the entire Lingxiao College. He would never ignore the entire college for the sake of the princess consort. In short, the princess consort has to take care of herself if she's in trouble. That's true. I heard that the princess consort's relatives, friends, and subordinates are not very strong. Let's not talk about Mu Hongyu from Lingxiao College. Although she's strong, she doesn't have any background. As for the princess consort's father, he's only a stage 1 warrior. What's there to hope for? Although the words were unpleasant, they were all true. How could it be so easy to establish a foothold in the divine ruins world? At this moment, a snow-white and muscular figure suddenly flew out from the bushes and pounced on them. Ah! The man standing at the front who was talking was shocked and hurriedly retreated. However, he was fast, but the other party was faster. He only saw a blur in front of his eyes, and a white shadow flashed past. Then, his body flew out uncontrollably. Bang! There was a muffled sound. A few sharp scratches appeared on his chest, and his flesh and blood rolled. The intense pain caused his face to turn pale. The remaining people were shocked and were about to attack, but they were stunned when they saw the other party. It was a white lion. Its fur was snow-white, and its ice-blue eyes were indifferent and cold. At this moment, it was staring intently at the few of them. It lowered its body slightly, as if it was ready to attack at any time. A strong murderous intent spread from its body. The remaining people's faces also turned pale. This was the Holy Sun's magical beast. How could they attack? Moreover, they were no match for it. Its cold gaze landed on the man who was covered in wounds on the ground, causing him to shiver. He swallowed the rest of his words and did not dare to make a sound. The air seemed to have stopped flowing and froze inch by inch. The few of them tensed up. After a while, one of them forced himself to speak. Lord Xue Xue, we didn't mean what we said just now. Xue Xue narrowed its eyes. Didn't mean it? Did they think it was stupid? Roar! A low roar came from Xue Xue's throat, and then it suddenly raised its claws. Since they didn't mean it, then, it would also do it a few times unintentionally. Mobile users, please browse for a better reading experience from Love Network. Chapter 1795. Taking care of these people was a piece of cake for Xue Xue. After a series of white flashes, the people present were all injured to varying degrees. Seeing that Xue Xue was about to continue, one of them quickly shouted. Lord Xue Xue. His Highness the Saint and the Princess Consort's wedding is imminent. It's really inappropriate if someone dies. Only then did Xue Xue stop. It tilted its head and pondered for a moment, as if it was considering this person's words. The few of them held their breaths nervously and did not dare to move. They did not even dare to utter a single word. Every second that Xue Xue was thinking was torture to them. Finally, Xue Xue turned around and left. It was indeed inappropriate to delay Master's wedding because of these few people. Seeing that it had finally decided to leave, the few of them looked relieved that they had survived a disaster. However, after taking a few steps, Xue Xue turned around again. Its cold and indifferent eyes swept across their faces as if it wanted to remember their faces clearly. Everyone understood the meaning in its eyes. It was waiting to settle the score with them. After taking a look, Shwe left in a flash. The snow-white figure flashed before their eyes and soon disappeared. However, the hearts of the few people who stayed on the spot sank. Offending this person would not end well for you either. If they had known that Lord Shwe was so protective of the princess consort and happened to be here, they would not have said that even if they were beaten to death. The few of them clutched their wounds and regretted it. Lord Shwe is a vengeful person. This time. I'm afraid it's over. One of them said regretfully. The other people's faces were deathly pale. As for the man who was attacked first, when he thought of what would happen to him, he was so angry that he fainted. However, there was no medicine for regret in this world. Everyone had to pay the price for their words and actions. Chu Luiyue was cultivating in her room. Suddenly, a wave came. She opened her eyes and looked at the window. A big furry head poked in through the window. Because the body was too big and the window was too small, it was stuck. A pair of ice blue eyes looked at Chu Luiyue innocently and pitifully. Roar! Chu Luiyue immediately got up and walked over, feeling helpless and amused. Shue. Why did he have to come in through the window every time? This small window can't accommodate your big body. As she spoke, she walked to the window and opened it even wider. Only then did she finally let Shue in. All right, youth. Before he could finish his sentence, the liberated Shue immediately pounced on him. He hadn't seen it for a while, and it had grown a lot bigger and heavier. This time, Chu Luiyue almost couldn't catch it. Fortunately, her strength had increased by quite a bit, and she barely managed to scoop Shue up. A bowl of furry fur reported to her. Chu Luiyue let out a long sigh. Phew. Shue, why are you so much heavier than before? Is it because you've been eating and sleeping well in the Yuntian Tower that you've put on weight? Chu Luiyue was originally teasing, but after saying that, she realized that Shue's condition seemed a little off. It didn't say anything and just leaned against her leg. Shue. Chu Luiyue looked down and saw Shue's expression. It didn't seem very happy. Sensing her gaze, Shue looked up. There was a faint light in its ice blue eyes, and it seemed to be very wronged. She was slightly stunned. Strange, Shue was happy every time it saw her. This had never happened before. What's wrong with our Shue? Who bullied you? Chu Luiyue rubbed Shue's head. This was the Yuntian Tower. Even if there was bullying, it should be Shue bullying others, right? Why was it so wronged? Chu Luiyue bent down and smelled an extremely faint smell of blood. Her expression changed slightly as she grabbed Shue's claws. Only then did she see that there were fresh bloodstains on its sharp nails. Who did you fight with? Chu Luiyue frowned. To be able to make Shue choose to fight in the Yuntian Tower, just as she was filled with worry, Shue suddenly leaned its head over. Chu Luiyue was stunned. Shue didn't say anything. It only rubbed its big head carefully and clumsily against her shoulder. Woo! It seemed to be comforting her. It's angry. Dumpling's voice suddenly sounded in her heart. It heard someone talking bad about you just now, so it fought with them. Chu Luiyue suddenly understood. Her heart seemed to have been hit by something soft. Shue was protecting her. She smiled and hugged Shue's head. Shue, why lower yourself to the level of those people? Shue let out a low sound. Of course it was angry. Those people actually dared to talk about her like that. If it wasn't for the fact that it didn't want to delay the wedding, it wouldn't have let them off so easily. It would definitely take revenge in the future. Chu Luiwei rubbed Xue Xue's head. Her eyes were slightly lowered, but she was thinking about something. Dumpling asked, look, I told you, those people don't know how to restrain themselves. They will only be obedient after being beaten up. Yu was right, but when would she be willing to make a move? She was really itching to do it now. Chu Luiwei was silent for a moment before she suddenly laughed. There are still 5 or 6 days before the wedding. Let them make a fuss one last time. Mobile users, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from the Love Network. Chapter 1796. Chu Luiwei comforted Xue Xue for a while and carefully wiped the blood off its claws. She also promised that she would definitely get back at it in the future. Only then did Xue Xue become happy again and run around her. It had indeed been staying in the Yuntian Tower to cultivate during this period of time. It was not allowed to come out if it did not meet its master's requirements. Therefore, Chu Luiwei had been here for a long time before it was finally free. After throwing those messy things to the back of its mind, Xue Xue became lively again. Chu Luiwei simply brought it to the courtyard to play. This courtyard was not big, but to Xue Xue, as long as it was with Chu Luiwei, it was always interesting. Seeing that there were many stones in the courtyard, it rushed over curiously and used its claws to fiddle with them. Dong! A stone next to it rolled down and landed on its hind legs. Xue Xue looked back with a blank expression. It did not move this stone. Why did it move by itself? It used its hind leg to push the stone away. In the end, a third stone rolled over. This time, the strength seemed to be a little stronger than before. Xue Xue was a little impatient. It waved its claws and kicked the stone away. However, in the next moment, the stone actually returned. It was heading straight for Xue Xue's face at an even faster speed. The sound of air being torn apart was sharp. Xue Xue was shocked and immediately turned to look. Only then did it see that when the stone flew over, it actually cut through the surrounding space, revealing a black space crack. Danger! Xue Xue immediately became vigilant. Suddenly, a clear and gentle voice sounded. Stop fooling around. It was Chu Luiwei. After that, Xue Xue watched with her own eyes as the originally aggressive rock suddenly concealed all of its aura and fell to the ground with a clang. It looked no different from an ordinary stone. Just looking at it like this was really hard to imagine. A second ago, it was still full of killing intent, and the pressure from it made it tremble in fear. Xue Xue shook its head and looked again in disbelief. Those few stones had stopped. Everything just now was like an illusion. However, it did not really think that it was all fake. Chu Luiwei walked over and grabbed Xue Xue's ear. There aren't many people here. With your appearance, it's inevitable that they'll be a little lively. Xue Xue was confused. Them? Who? Suddenly, its gaze froze. Wait, there aren't only these few stones around. Xue Xue turned her neck stiffly as a trace of shock flashed across her eyes. There seemed to be stones scattered everywhere in the entire courtyard. Moreover, it was very similar to the one that wanted to attack. Xue Xue instantly understood something as it looked up at Chu Luiwei. Chu Luiwei's lips curled. Xue Xue was smart, she did not intend to hide. If you feel bored, you can ask Tuanzi to practice with you. Fortunately, the Great Phoenix Dragon Clan's clan leader was Maojin now, so she didn't care so much about Dumpling. Otherwise, the problem would be more difficult to solve. Okay. Dumpling didn't think too much about it. When she heard that she could go back, she immediately won happily. You, A familiar voice sounded. Chu Luiwei looked up. Master, why are you here? She asked as she walked over. Nan Suwai waved his hand. I have nothing to do, so I wanted to come and see you. Chu Luiyue raised her eyebrows. Oh. She knew her master best. Since he was here, there must be a reason. Nan Suwai felt guilty under her gaze. He coughed a few times and finally gave in. All right. Actually, the reason why Master came over this time is because I have something to ask you. Chu Luiyue invited Nan Suwai to sit on a stone bench in the courtyard. Then, she smiled and asked unhurriedly. What do you want to ask, Master? Nan Suwai hesitated. After a long while, he raised his chin in a certain direction. Those few people, are all your subordinates? Chu Luiyue knew he was asking about Xin Yi and the others, so she nodded. That's right. Why? Did they get into trouble? Nan Suwai hurriedly waved his hand. Of course not. They don't know how to cause trouble like you. No, Master means, those few children don't look old, but their talents are not bad. Especially the youngest one, his physique seems to be quite good. Do you have any intention of letting him go to the academy? Mobile users, please browse for a better reading experience from Love Network. Chapter 1797. Chu Luiyue was stunned. She put down the cup of tea that had just reached her lips. She didn't expect her master to take a fancy to little 13. Her master's eyes were famous for being picky. Otherwise, he wouldn't have only taken her as his disciple after so many years. Being able to catch his eye was enough to prove that little 13 was indeed outstanding. Chu Luiyue thought for a while and didn't immediately agree. She asked, why did Master suddenly think of this? Have you already checked little 13's potential? Nan Suwai shook his head. Not yet. It's just that this child has been running all over the mountains these few days. Although he's young and is only a stage 6 warrior, his speed is comparable to a stage 9 warrior. Thinking about it, this child's physique should be pretty good. Originally, I did want to call him over to take a look. But since he's your disciple, I thought of asking for your opinion first. Chu Luiyue's lips curled up slightly. It's little 13's good fortune to be favored by Master. If he can really enter the academy to cultivate, it'll be a good thing for little 13. Please wait for a while, I'll call him over. She stood up and was about to call for him when she suddenly thought of something and asked, if little 13's conditions are good, does Master plan to take him as your disciple? Nan Suwai shook his head. Of course not. It's enough for me to have you as my disciple. Besides, if he's really as good as I think, there's someone more suitable to be his master in the academy. Chu Luiyue nodded in understanding. Little 13. She raised her voice slightly and shouted into the distance. Nan Suwai was a little surprised, that child seems to be halfway up the mountain now. It's so far away, he can hear. Before he finished speaking, a thin figure of a young man quickly came from afar. He ran very fast and his movements were light and nimble. In the blink of an eye, he was already in front of Chu Luiyue. Because he ran in a hurry, his forehead and the tip of his nose were covered in crystal-clear beads of sweat. A pair of pure and sincere eyes glowed with the unique youthful vigor of a young man. Chu Luiyue's eyes swayed when she saw him. These few years, little 13 had really grown up. In her memory, he was still a child. Master, are you looking for me? Chu Luiyue came back to his senses and nodded with a smile. Come here. With that, she returned to Nan Suwai's side. Master thinks that your talent is not bad and wants to see your aptitude. If you pass, you can go to Lingshao College to cultivate in the future. Chu Luiyue said concisely. 13 was taken aback. He looked at Nan Suwai, then at Chu Luiyue. This means, he has been here for several days. Of course, he knew who the master was. He had also heard of the other party's identity. He just didn't expect that it would be related to him. Chapter 1798. The entire courtyard fell silent for a moment. Chu Luiyue was stunned for a while before she understood what 13 meant. He said he didn't want to go to Lingxiao College. Nan Suwai was also a little confused. He had never encountered such a situation before. In the world of divine ruins, countless geniuses worked hard to cultivate in the hope of entering Lingxiao College. Many people saw this as the glory of their lives and that of their entire family. It was no exaggeration to say that Lingxiao College was indeed the highest school that all the geniuses in the world flocked to. They had always been the ones to choose people, and they had never been rejected like this. 13. You've just arrived in the world of divine ruins, so you probably don't know what Lingxiao College means. Chu Luiyue sorted out her thoughts and felt that 13 was still a little young and didn't consider things thoroughly. That was why he said such words. She looked at 13 and said seriously, 13, this is an extremely rare opportunity. Many people want to enter the college but don't have the qualifications. She really didn't want 13 to miss this great opportunity. 13 shook his head. Master, I know all this. Before he came, his big brother and the others had already told him a lot about the world of divine ruins. Lingxiao College was the college where his master studied, so of course, they had done a lot of research. He really didn't want to go. I know, it's my honor to be appreciated by the dean. But I've gotten used to following Big Brother and the others all these years. I think it's pretty good. 13 paused and took a deep breath as if he had mustered up his courage. I don't want to leave Big Brother and the others, and I don't want to leave you. In another courtyard of Changi Mountain, Wu Yao was practicing boxing. Little Hachi was applying nail polish. Yu Jiu was waving a wooden sword. Shi Fang was plowing the ground. A few days ago, he had started farming as soon as he arrived. Now, fresh and green sprouts had already grown on the ground. It's the most reassuring to eat the vegetables you grow yourself. Shi Fang straightened his back and sighed. He had a bad habit of only eating the vegetables he grew. During this period of time, he had been busy running around and didn't have time to do these. The ones he brought from home were almost finished. It would take another month for the newly planted ones to ripen. Shi Fang could only struggle to get by. But when he saw these fresh shoots, his mood improved a lot. Little Hachi glanced at him. You're even more pretentious than me. According to Shi Fang's present realm, even if he ate one meal a month, it was nothing much. However, he was very stubborn and had to eat it every day. Moreover, if it wasn't planted by him, he would rather starve to death than eat it. Spoiled. Shi Fang didn't mind. He wiped the sweat off his forehead and smiled. Only then did Xin Yi nod in satisfaction. Everyone, continue with your work. After Xin Yi finished speaking, he glanced into the distance again before retracting his gaze and returning to the room. After 13 finished speaking, the entire courtyard fell silent again. Chu Luiyue didn't know what to say for a moment. She could tell that 13 was speaking from the bottom of his heart. Lingxiao College might be full of temptation to others and was a holy land that they yearned for. However, this was clearly not the case for 13. She paused and wanted to persuade him again. 13, have you thought it through? If you go to Lingxiao College, you'll only be cultivating. It doesn't mean that you'll leave us. After all, I'm also a student of the college, right? Once such an opportunity was missed, it wouldn't come again. However, 13's expression gradually became determined. He stared at Chu Luiyue and shook his head. Chu Luiyue suddenly felt a headache coming on. If it were little Hachi and the others, she would just give the order directly. However, 13 was still a child. Nan Su Hui sighed and smiled in relief. Forget it. It seems that this child isn't fated to be with Lingxiao College. There's no need to force it. Also, his talent doesn't seem to have been delayed. His cultivation progress is quite good. He should have a good master. Chu Luiyue tapped her finger lightly on the stone table. 13 naturally didn't have a master. He had always been brought up by Cin Yi and the others. Mobile users, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from Love Network. Chapter 1799. Nan Su Hui left with some regret. Before he left, he even reminded Chu Luiyue that 13 was indeed a good seedling and must be nurtured well in the future. Actually, Nan Su Hui said this out of consideration for Chu Luiyue. After all, 13 was her subordinate. If he developed well, it would naturally be the best for her. 13 was still young and could not be seen clearly. Once he grew up, he would definitely not be underestimated. Chu Luiyue brought 13 and personally sent him out. When Nan Su Hui's figure gradually disappeared into the distance, Chu Luiyue turned around and quietly looked at 13. 13 was a little nervous under her gaze and unconsciously lowered his head. Master, did I do something wrong just now? He asked nervously. Chu Luiyue looked at him. Follow me into the room. With that, she turned around and walked into the room. Shui Shui, you go back first. Shui Shui, who originally wanted to follow, looked a little disappointed when it heard this. It scratched its head and looked at her back reluctantly for a while. Oh. It would come back later. 13 hesitated for a moment, but still followed. In the room, Chu Luiyue sat calmly. 13 stood not far in front of her, his hands clenched nervously. He lowered his head slightly and looked up at Chu Luiyue from time to time. 13, you did nothing wrong. After a long silence, Chu Luiyue spoke. But this did not make 13 relax. In his memory, his master had never spoken to him with such an expression and tone. He knew what it meant when he rejected Nan Su Hui's suggestion, so he still felt uneasy. Although Lingxiao College is a place that many people dream of going to, it does not mean that it is the same for everyone. You have your own reasons for not wanting to go. In the past, I have never forced you to do anything, and naturally, I won't now. It's just that. She paused for a moment. Her gaze was as sharp as a knife as it swept past 13. I am a little surprised that you are so talented. 13 became more and more uneasy. I'm to blame for this. I should have paid attention to it back then, but I didn't know until now. From a certain point of view, she had neglected 13. 13 hurriedly said, No. This has nothing to do with Master. 13 should have taken the initiative to tell you. Chu Luiyue smiled. Actually, it doesn't matter now. The most important thing is that your talent hasn't been delayed. On this point, she and her master had the same view. For a cultivator to become an expert, many factors were needed. Talent was the undisputed first condition. However, this did not mean that you would definitely be able to grow if you had talent. Without the guidance of a good master, without enough patience and perseverance, no matter how good one's talent was, it would be wasted. Fortunately, 13 was not delayed. Hearing her say this, 13 was finally relieved. Chapter 1800. Chu Luiyue was speechless for a moment. She leaned against the back of the chair, her eyes drooping as she fell into deep thought. After a while, she smiled helplessly. You're right. She never doubted Cin Yi's loyalty to her. So even if Cin Yi didn't do things according to her wishes, she wouldn't be angry or worried. Cin Yi was extremely intelligent. Many times, it was indeed his existence that helped Chu Luiyue avoid a lot of trouble. He was right. No matter when she found out about this, it didn't have much of an impact. Under their care, 13 still grew up well. The current him was already so outstanding that even her picky master wouldn't hesitate to praise him. That was already enough. Chu Luiyue looked up at Xin. Xin stood there quietly, looking at her with a calm expression. His eyes were calm and composed. Take good care of 13 in the future. Xin smiled and bowed. Yes. Time quickly came to the day before the wedding. According to the rules, the two who were about to get married couldn't meet each other on this day. 36 respected Elder Ming came over with his men. His Highness the Saint ordered several embroiderers to rush through the night to make this. It took a full 3 months before it was finally completed. 36 respected Elder Ming put down the meticulously carved agarwood box and looked at Chu Luiyue lovingly. Does your Highness want to open it to take a look? Chu Luiyue seemed to feel something surging in her heart. She gently brushed her hand over the box and shook her head. Rong Xiao naturally gave me the best. This thing was so precious that she didn't even dare to open the box to take a closer look. Logically speaking, the bride's mother should be in charge of the wedding dress. But her mother had already passed away and couldn't do so. Rong Xiao helped her with all these things and didn't make things difficult for her at all. So much time had passed in the blink of an eye since they had pledged their love to each other. Chu Luiyue suddenly felt very emotional. The outside was already bustling with noise and excitement. There were lanterns and colored banners everywhere, and the atmosphere was jubilant. The entire Yuntian Tower seemed to be immersed in a sea of joy. He had prepared this grand celebration for her. 36 revered Elder Ming looked kindly at Chu Luiyue and suddenly said, "Actually, this old man has a few words to say to your Highness. Is it convenient for Princess Consort?" Chu Luiyue came back to her senses and smiled. "Respected Elder, you're treating me like an outsider by calling me that. Just call me you, 36 respected Elder Ming's gaze became even gentler. Good. In the future, he would still address her as such in private. Seeing that Chu Luiyue had agreed, he waved his hand and dismissed his entourage. Soon, only the two of them were left in the room. Chu Luiyue knew that what he was going to say had something to do with Rong Xiao. Please take a seat. If you have anything to say, just say it. You will listen. 36 respected Elder Ming nodded, walked to the window, and sat down. You come and sit too. Chu Luiyue walked over and sat opposite 36 respected Elder Ming. 36 respected Elder Ming carefully sized up the girl in front of him. She was extremely beautiful and devastatingly beautiful. Her eyes were as bright as the galaxy. They were pure and sincere, and there was a rare calmness. Such a girl should be the most compatible with him. Actually, this old man didn't like you very much at the beginning. 36 respected Elder Ming smiled and threw out these words. Chu Luiyue's gaze was calm. She knew that 36 respected Elder Ming wanted to say more than this. 36 respected Elder Ming blinked when he saw that she was so calm. Why do you look like you're not worried at all? Chu Luiyue's lips curled up slightly. You also said that it was at the beginning. If you still don't like me now, you wouldn't be telling me all this here, right? This girl is too smart. It's indeed not easy to fool her. 36 respected Elder Ming suddenly felt defeated. These two, one was harder to deal with than the other. However, he quickly adjusted his emotions and narrowed his eyes, as if he was recalling something. You should know a little about Her Highness' background. Chu Luiyue nodded. Back then, her mother went out to train and accidentally met that man. She fell deeply in love with him. She knew that the people in the clan would definitely object to her finding a man with such a lowly background, so she privately pledged her life to him. She thought that she had found her true love, but she didn't know that the man was Emperor Yao Qin, and he already had a harem of 3,000. Since then, she was disheartened, and her health deteriorated day by day. In the end, before she died, she exhausted all her strength and hid Her Highness' identity. She thought that this would be foolproof, but she didn't expect that the people in the clan never gave up looking for her. Although she was gone, they still found Her Highness very quickly. At that time, everyone in the Yuntian Tower hated this matter to the core. They even felt ashamed of Her Highness' existence and planned to directly execute Her Highness. Fortunately, Her Highness summoned the infinite divine dial and displayed the most powerful bloodline power in the Yuntian Tower in the past 1,000 years. From then on, no one in the Yuntian Tower mentioned killing Her Highness anymore. At this point, 36 respected Elder Ming's face revealed a trace of gratification, but it was quickly replaced by pity. However, this was only the beginning. Her Highness came from a special background and had no foundation. For a long time, she was bullied in the Yuntian Tower. Although I could help her, I couldn't go too far. Otherwise, it would only attract more jealousy and hatred. Time passed day by day, and she gradually grew up. I don't know when it started, but she became cold, bloodthirsty, and crazy. That's when his nickname, God of Slaughter, came into being. 36 respected Elder Ming let out a long sigh. Although her strength increased day by day, her temperament seemed to become colder and colder. Sometimes, it even made people wonder if she had already cut off all her emotions and desires and became a puppet that only knew how to kill. Chu Liuyue's heart also moved slightly. Although she had some understanding of these matters before, today was the first time she had heard a complete description. Even though many years had passed, and even Rongxiu himself mentioned it, she didn't care much. When she heard it, her heart still throbbed with pain. At this point, 36 respected Elder Ming looked at Chu Liyue. Fortunately, Her Highness met you later. Chu Liyue pointed at herself. Me? Yes, you. 36 respected Elder Ming seemed to have sunk into a distant memory. I remember that a few years ago, Her Highness went out to train alone and didn't return for a long time. When I heard news of Her Highness again, she was already a student of Lingxiao College. Mobile users, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from Love Network. Chapter 1801. Chu Liuyue's heart skipped a beat. She and Rongxiu had indeed met before going to Lingxiao College. At that time, she had just finished her training in the Dahuang Swamp and came to the Divine Ruins world by chance. In the end, she met Rongxiu directly. At that time, the two of them were being hunted down. In a moment of desperation, they chose to join forces. After a while, they got to know each other. After that, she said that she wanted to go to Lingxiao College to cultivate. Rongxiu agreed almost without hesitation. Chu Liyue subconsciously thought that Rongxiu was like her, going to Lingxiao College. After all, although she was not familiar with the Divine Ruins world at that time, she had stayed in the Dahuang Swamp for so long and heard a lot of relevant things. Lingxiao College was the top college in the Divine Ruins world. Who wouldn't yearn for it? Actually, at that time, the people at Yuntian Tower didn't know of your existence. They only thought that His Highness wanted to go to the college to cultivate. It wasn't until later when His Highness said that he wanted to return to Yaoqin that I realized that something was wrong. At this point, 36 respected Elder Ming paused for a moment. You should know that His Highness doesn't have any feelings for Yaoqin. If not for a special reason, he definitely wouldn't go back. Before that, Rongxiu had always claimed that he was ill and recuperating at Mingyue Tianshan. In reality, he had only stayed at Mingyue Tianshan for a very short period of time. Most of the time, he still stayed in the Divine Ruins world. And that time, His Highness didn't return for a long time. Later on, this old man met you. At first, he only thought that His Highness was infatuated with a woman, so he was a little unhappy. But later, he realized that it was precisely because of this woman that His Highness started to become like a normal person. He had 7 emotions and 6 desires, and he was tied down and lovesick. At that time, 36 respected Elder Ming thought that this woman was definitely not ordinary. It wasn't until later that he finally had the opportunity to meet Chu Luiyue. At first sight, he fell in love with this girl. She was intelligent, quick-witted, and pure. He had met countless people in his life, and his eyes were very sharp. After meeting Chu Luiyue, he liked him very much. That was why he gave him so many gifts. All these years, this old man has never seen Your Highness spend so much effort on anyone else. Except for you. All his joys and sorrows were probably caused by her alone. Your Highness has suffered a lot in the past and has almost no one close to you. Now that you've met a woman who's in love with you, it's really rare. In the future, I hope that the two of you can grow old together. 36 respected Elder Ming gently patted Chu Luiyue's hand and said solemnly. Chu Luiyue's nose tingled slightly, but a smile bloomed on his lips. All right. After 36 respected Elder Ming left, Chu Luiyue sat quietly in his room for a long time. By the time he recovered from his shock, he caught sight of the agarwood box by the side, and his heart skipped a beat. She stood up and walked over. There was no lock on the box, but there was a totem of the Yuntian Tower on the top. Chu Luiyue thought for a while, and put the universe ring in her hand on it. The totem dissipated. Chu Luiyue reached out and opened the box. What entered her eyes was a stretch of red that was as intense and elegant as flames. It was like a piece of red cloud in the evening sky that was meticulously woven. It was soft and light to the touch, and there was a faint flicker of golden light. It was gorgeous, solemn, and moving. The phoenix coronet's craftsmanship was complicated, as if it was meticulously carved by the heavens. There was a golden phoenix spreading its wings and flying, and a bright red jade bead in its mouth. It was sparkling and translucent, and the quality was excellent. The tassels on both sides hung down, adding to the beauty and gentleness. Chu Luiyue's hand gently brushed across the phoenix coronet, and a thought suddenly appeared in her mind. She was really going to marry Rongxiu. Mobile users, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from Love Network. Chapter 1802. Chu Luiyue slept soundly that night. She even had a long dream. In her dream, most of the time, she and Rongxiu met, got to know each other, and fell in love with each other. Those scenes kept flashing in her mind. Every scene was so vivid that it seemed like it happened yesterday. At this moment, Chu Luiyue realized that she and he were more than 10,000 miles apart. But in the end, they were still together. People who were destined to be together would always hold each other's hands tightly no matter what. Early in the morning, there was a knock on the door. Lu Yu. Lu Yu. Chu Luiyue was already awake. When she heard the voice, she knew that it was Mu Hongyu. She walked over and opened the door. Mu Hongyu rushed in excitedly. When she saw that Chu Luiyue still had her hair down, her eyes widened slightly. Lu Yu, why haven't you started to dress up? Chu Luiyue smiled helplessly. What's the hurry? Because she and Rongxiu were both in Yuntian Tower, and Changi Mountain was not far from Duming Peak, they could save a lot of tedious procedures. Moreover, the wedding ceremony would officially start at noon. There were still a few hours to go. Mu Hongyu thought about it and agreed. But maybe because it was her first time attending her best friend's wedding, she was very excited. Her heart was beating wildly, and she could not calm down. But you still have to prepare early. Washing up, dressing up, changing into the wedding dress. These will take a lot of time. As Mu Hongyu nagged, she forcefully pulled Chu Luiyue to the dressing table and pressed her down on the chair. Today is your wedding, Lu Yu. Of course, you have to dress up. You have to be the most beautiful bride. Mu Hongyu looked at Chu Luiyue's soft hair. Her face was flushed, and her almond-shaped eyes were bright. Let me help you. After saying that, she prepared to attack. However, Mu Hongyu soon discovered a crucial problem. She didn't seem to know how to do her hair. Normally, she would tie her hair up simply, but on such a grand occasion, it was obviously not possible. Sigh. I've been studying it for a long time. She had spent a lot of time on this, but when it came to this, she realized that she wasn't skilled enough. If something went wrong, Pucci. A delicate laugh rang out, accompanied by the crisp sound of broken jade beads colliding against each other. Let me handle this matter. Chu Luiyue and Mu Hongyu turned around and saw little Hachi walking over with a smile on her face. She naturally took the wooden comb from Mu Hongyu's hands. Her voice was soft and charming, almost able to make people's bones melt. Little girl, watch carefully. Mu Hongyu was stunned. The other party didn't seem to be much older than her, but her charm was too strong. Comparing the two, the difference was indeed quite big. Mu Hongyu nodded subconsciously and obediently said, "Oh." Little Hachi looked at her with a smile, then reached out and pinched Mu Hongyu's cheek. Good girl. Mu Hongyu had never been teased by a woman like this before. She immediately blushed. Chu Luiyue looked at little Hachi speechlessly. She was indeed attractive to both men and women. Little Hachi looked away and stared at Chu Luiyue in the mirror. Then, her lips curved into a smile. Master, don't worry. No one is more beautiful than you today. After saying that, she began to help Chu Luiyue comb her hair. Little Hachi's soft and silky hair seemed to be particularly obedient in her hands. She didn't see how she did it, but her fair and delicate fingers moved back and forth, and the luxurious and beautiful hairstyle gradually took shape. Little girl, bring me the phoenix coronet. Little Hachi said gently. Mu Hongyu reacted and quickly responded. Chu Luiyue pointed to the location. Mu Hongyu walked over and opened the wooden box. Soon after, she sucked in a breath of cold air. Lu Yu, this phoenix coronet, is too beautiful. She had seen many treasures and jewelry, but none of them could be compared to this phoenix coronet. There was no way to describe it in words. The moment it entered her eyes, the only feeling it gave her was, beautiful. There was even a trace of shock. Yuntian Tower was indeed a first-class family. This gift was indeed extraordinary. Mu Hongyu sighed as she carefully took out the phoenix coronet and handed it to Chu Luiyue. Little Hachi glanced at it, and a satisfied smile appeared on her face. This was the only thing that was worthy of her master. She didn't hurry to help Chu Luiyue put it on. Instead, she asked her to change into the wedding dress. This time, it was Mu Hongyu who carefully took out the wedding gown. After experiencing the baptism of the phoenix coronet, Mu Hongyu's mental endurance had increased a lot. After she helped Chu Luiyue change, she covered her mouth and tried her best not to scream. However, her eyes, which were full of amazement, betrayed her feelings at this moment. Little Hachi raised her eyebrows proudly and began to put on Chu Luiyue's makeup. She was very skillful with her hands, and this kind of thing was a piece of cake for her. Moreover, Chu Luiyue was very beautiful. After a while, little Hachi looked at Chu Luiyue's face with satisfaction. That's right. Of course, on the wedding day, she had to be the most beautiful. Then, little Hachi took the phoenix coronet and carefully helped Chu Luiyue put it on. Mu Hongyu couldn't help but say, Lu Yu, I have never seen anyone more beautiful than you. Chu Luiyue looked at herself in the mirror. Her eyebrows were slightly raised, her eyes were like stars, and her red lips were slightly red. She was dressed in a red wedding dress that was like clouds and rosy clouds. She was elegant and beautiful. For a moment, she was in a trance. Indeed, even she had never seen herself like this. At this moment, a low and pleasant voice came from outside. I have come to pick you up. Mobile users, please browse for a better reading experience from Love Network. Chapter 1803. It was a voice that she was very familiar with. Chu Luiyue suddenly came back to her senses and turned her head to look. At this time, the door was closed, but it was already lively outside. The sound of ritual music came faintly and lingered in her ears. She heard the laughter of many people. But in the noise of this world, only his voice was the clearest. He said that he had come to pick her up. Chu Luiyue stood up and walked towards the door. She put her hand on the door. It was slightly cold to the touch, but her palm was boiling hot. She took a deep breath and gently pushed the door open. Bright sunlight surged in an instant. She narrowed her eyes slightly and saw a face that could not be more familiar. She was slightly stunned. Today, Rongxiu was wearing a red robe, which was rare. A black jade belt around his waist easily outlined his waist, making his shoulders wider and his waist narrower, and his figure more slender. His face, which had always been like a banished immortal, seemed to be stained with the smoke and fire of the mortal world at this time, and was not as cold as before. Everyone was silent for a moment. Rongxiu's eyes also flashed with a touch of blazing amazement. The woman in the red wedding dress walked out from behind the door. There was a beauty, clear and graceful. She could topple a city with one look, and then a country with another. It was probably, talking about such a beauty, right? In fact, many people present had seen Chu Luiyue before. She had an extremely beautiful appearance, but most of the time, she was barefaced. Now, she was wearing a phoenix coronet and a robe, which made people feel that she was a different person. There was actually such a woman in this world. When she appeared, everything around her seemed to dim. Only she was lively, bright, and extremely bright. The so-called disaster was probably nothing more than this. Or, a fairy with such an appearance should not have come to the mortal world in the first place. A year of silence. Everyone held their breaths and focused, as if they were afraid that they would disturb someone if they spoke. Chu Luiyue blinked. In an instant, it seemed that thousands of stars were surging. Rongxiu. She called out softly. Rongxiu stared at her as if he wanted to carve her appearance into his heart. The scorching heat almost made Chu Luiyue's entire body burn. After a while, he finally reached out his hand. Chu Luiyue looked at his hand. His palm was thick and strong, and his palm was covered with a thin layer of calluses. Only she knew how warm that hand was. She reached out her hand. Almost immediately, Rongxiu held her hand tightly. It was as if he was afraid that the person in front of him would disappear in the blink of an eye. It wasn't until he confirmed the soft and delicate temperature in his hand that he finally relaxed. He suddenly leaned over and whispered in her ear. You is truly, extremely beautiful. Chu Luiyue's face was slightly hot, but there was also an indescribable steadiness and warmth in his heart. Finally. I'm beside him. Rongxiu held her hand tightly. Come with me. The wedding ceremony was held in the ethereal hall. At this moment, the ethereal hall was already filled with guests. Almost all the people from the various clans and sects in the Divine Ruins world were gathered here. They were all waiting for the two main characters of the wedding. In the innermost seats were Sheng Wanjing, Sheng Wanyu, Chu Ning, and 36 respected elder Ming. When the crowd saw this, they couldn't help but discuss. Shouldn't the seats at the top be reserved for the elders of the Holy Sun and the princess consort? Why is the one sitting there 36 respected elder Ming? I don't even recognize the few people beside him. Haven't you heard? After that commotion, the clan head of the Yuntian Tower fell into a coma a few days after returning. He hasn't woken up yet. We all know what kind of background this holy son has. Since the clan head is unconscious, the only one qualified to sit here is 36 respected elder Ming. After all, he has been treating the holy son like a teacher and father all these years. What you said makes some sense. But the three people beside him. Where are they from? Could they be the princess consort's family? It's a long story. Do you see the one in the middle? That's the famous Shangguan Jing. A true weapon refining venerable. I heard that he's the princess consort's Taizu. And the other two seem to be the princess consort's fathers. I've heard that the princess consort of the Yuntian Tower was born in the Tianling dynasty outside the Divine Ruins world. But after a few twists and turns, she came to the Divine Ruins world with great difficulty. Since these two are her fathers, it's normal for them to sit here together. Normal. The one on the left is still alright. He's a demigod, but the one on the right is only a stage 4 warrior. It's difficult for such a person to see us normally. But now, he's sitting in front of us and is more honorable than us. This princess consort is really amazing. You can't say that. Do you see the old man beside him? That's Nan Su Huai, the dean of Lingshao College. He's the princess consort's master. It's said that he dotes on his disciple very much to the point of doting on her. Be careful not to let him hear these words. We'll get into trouble later. Someone disagreed. So what? Most of the people here today are here for the sake of the Yuntian Tower. Besides, even if they really heard it, do you think they'll make a scene with us here? For the sake of a Shangguan Yu? It's really not worth it. Nan Su slowly clenched his hands in his sleeves and glanced at the person who spoke. Shangguan Jing raised his eyes slightly and then quickly looked away. At this moment, accompanied by the music of the ceremony, the announcement was clearly heard: His Highness the Holy Son has arrived. The Princess Consort has arrived. Mobile users, please browse for a better reading experience from the Love Network. Chapter 1804. The ethereal hall soon fell silent. Everyone raised their heads and looked toward the entrance of the hall. A perfect couple was walking over hand in hand. In an instant, all the lights seemed to have gathered on the two of them. It was bright and dazzling. They clasped their hands and walked side by side towards the main hall step by step. There seemed to be an indescribable aura that shrouded the two of them, forming a small world that isolated them from the others. That small world could only contain the two of them. It couldn't contain anyone else. Shangguan Jing and the others were invigorated, and they subconsciously straightened their backs. 36 respected elder Ming also felt a myriad of emotions in his heart. The Holy Son had been thinking about this matter for far too long. Now, he finally got what he wanted. He had never seen such an expression on the Holy Son's face before. Joy, pride, and gentleness. There was also a myriad of emotions that he didn't conceal in the depths of his eyes. Everyone's gaze followed them, and there was only one person in his eyes. This scene was so beautiful that no one could bear to disturb it. Many of the people gathered in the hall had complicated expressions on their faces when they saw this scene. No one would have thought that the Holy Son of the Yuntian Tower would really marry such a princess. Of course, many of them had interacted with Chu Luiyue before, so they didn't dare to underestimate her. All kinds of gazes fell on the two of them. Rong Xiu didn't mind, and Chu Luiyue didn't mind either. They held hands tightly, as if they would never separate. Finally, the two of them stood in the middle of the hall. Bow to the heavens and earth. The ceremonial official's voice was loud and clear. This voice reverberated clearly in the hall. Rong Xiao and Chu Luiyue turned around and bowed. Chu Luiyue didn't believe in the heavens or fate. However, after meeting Rong Xiao in this life, she would rather believe that this was the heavens taking pity on her. Even though they were separated by thousands of miles, he still came before her. Despite the disparity in their statuses, he had chosen her from the very beginning. Chu Luiyue's hand lightly scratched his palm. Rong Xiao held her hand even tighter. Second, bow to your parents. He turned around and bowed again. Chu Luiyue clearly saw Taizu's tightly clenched hands, as well as his father and father's slightly red eyes. In an instant, countless images flashed before his eyes. Imperial Father smiled dotingly and praised her proudly. The fire in the Tianling royal family's ancestral hall, as well as the bone-piercing pain. When he woke up again and dragged his body back to the Chu clan, the first thing he saw was his father's figure rushing over, and his father's anxious greeting. For her, he had been tossed around many places and had gone through many trials and tribulations. Even if his clothes were tattered and he was covered in wounds, he still insisted on seeing her one more time. The nervous and perturbed look in his eyes after knowing her identity. When he heard her call him Daddy, he was willing to give up everything. And along the way, the Taizu had protected him countless times. Chu Luiyue's eyes became hot, and the tip of his nose became slightly sour. Actually, she had always been loved and protected. No matter how much pain she had experienced, there was still a family that would become her warm arms. Husband and wife, bow to each other. Chu Luiyue raised her gaze slightly and looked at Rong Xiao, looking into his deep, phoenix-like eyes. She saw her figure clearly reflected in them. She saw the gentleness and love in his eyes. Her red lips curved slightly and she smiled. To be able to marry your highness in this life, I have no regrets. Rong Xiao looked at her and smiled. He enunciated each word clearly. No, it should be said that to be able to marry you, Rong Xiao, is blessed by 3 lifetimes. Digression, there's no more in the morning everyone, go to bed early. There are probably more than 10 chapters during the day. Ahem, the chapters will drop around noon, 6 p.m., and 11 p.m. Please check. I heard that some people want me to update 50 chapters a day. Ahem, although I didn't manage to do it, but for the next 3 days, I'll update more than 10 chapters a day. Mwah. Mobile users, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from Love Network. His gaze fell on her moist and full lips, and his eyes suddenly darkened. Chu Luiyue blinked and nodded. It was rare for her to be so obedient and a little naive. She was like a cat that had put away its sharp claws and turned into a soft ball, making people want to hold her in their arms. Rong Xiao's fingers gently rubbed the wine cup twice and looked at the bright and warm sunlight outside. It was only noon. He drank the rest of the wine in one gulp. For the first time, he felt that time was so unbearable. The sect master of the celestial sect gives 2,000-year-old flying frost immortal pearls. The sect master of the purple phoenix sect gives a pair of night sea coral screens. The house master of the snowstorm house gives a green color great origin pill. The announcer's voice kept ringing. Chu Luiyue raised her eyebrows slightly. The Yuntian Tower's status in the world of divine ruins was indeed very high. Almost all the gifts given by the families were rare treasures. Ordinary families and clans had never seen them before, let alone give them away. Only the real big families and clans could have such confidence and foundation. Rong Xiao listened at the side with a faint smile on his lips, and his eyes were relaxed. Everyone watched from below and sighed with emotion. It turned out that this god of slaughter could also show such a smile. And all of this was obviously because of the woman beside him. Time passed slowly. In the main hall, there was a low discussion. Those who have presented their gifts are all first-rate families in the world of divine ruins. It's obvious that they are all here because of the Holy Sun. But why hasn't the princess's people come out to present their gifts until now? Someone asked doubtfully. You don't know. The princess that the Holy Sun married is from outside the world of divine ruins. This time, for the wedding ceremony, they specially invited the princess's father and friends. But you know that kind of background, what good things can they bring? Someone laughed mockingly. When the families and sects in the world of divine ruins finish presenting their gifts, it should be their turn, right? But I guess there's nothing to see. Why not? I'm looking forward to seeing what the relatives and friends of this princess, who has won the Holy Sun's favor and insisted on marrying no one else but her, will send. If they are all unpresentable, wouldn't the scene be exciting? Ha! Tisk tsk. You're really cunning. I like it. That scene, just thinking about it makes me feel good. When that time comes, I'm afraid Rong Xiu won't be able to hold back his face. Everyone laughed secretly. In the past few years, Rong Xiu had been famous in the world of divine ruins. Some people envied and respected him, while others were jealous and resentful. There were also some who wanted to marry Yuntian Tower, but were directly rejected by Rong Xiu. How could the women and their families not be better than this lowly Shengguanyu? Although everyone present was talking and laughing, many of them had their own plans in their hearts. There were more than one or two people who wanted to see a joke. If this princess was embarrassed today, it would be equivalent to the Holy Sun, Rong Xiu, losing face. Although many people lowered their voices, the ethereal hall was only so big, and most of the people present were top-notch experts. Who wouldn't be able to hear them? He had said that on purpose. On one hand, many of the clans present were first-rate clans, and they weren't inferior to Yuntian Tower. On the other hand, they felt that they were speaking the truth. If the truth was unpleasant to hear, how could they not be allowed to speak it? 36 respected Elder Ming frowned and looked at Rong Xiu. However, he saw that Rong Xiu's expression was normal, as though he didn't care about these words. He turned his gaze and looked at Chu Luiyue. Fine, this person is still smiling. 36 respected Elder Ming sighed in his heart. I really can't see through them. At this moment, Shengguan Jing suddenly spoke. You err. This low and deep voice immediately attracted everyone's attention. The ethereal hall fell silent. Chu Luiyue looked over. Taizu. Shengguan Jing smiled. You and Rong Xiu have finally come to fruition today. Taizu is happy. Taizu is used to living a carefree life, and he hasn't saved anything for you over the years. He doesn't have anything else to give you. Take this. As he spoke, he took out a bronze universe ring from his hand. Chu Luiyue smiled like a flower. Anything given by Taizu is naturally the best. Taizu waved his hand and said casually. It's just 6 supremacy god artifacts. What's so good about them? In the future, Taizu will personally forge a few more for you. At the very least, they have to be perfect. Mobile users, please browse for a better reading experience from LoveNet. Chapter 1806. Everyone in the ethereal hall gasped in astonishment. 6 supremacy artifacts? Are you kidding me? One had to know that to most of the people present, obtaining an Emperor Divine artifact was already a great thing. Otherwise, there wouldn't have been a few clans who fell out with Lingxiao College over the Crimson Heaven Sword. They knew that Shengguan Jing was a supremacy blacksmith, so it was within their expectations that he would give out supremacy artifacts. However, they didn't expect Shengguan Jing to give out 6 supremacy artifacts right off the bat. He even promised to give out a few more to make up for the 10 supremacy artifacts. Were supremacy artifacts as common as cabbages these days? Everyone was stunned. What they didn't know was that even though Sheng Wanjing had always been a loner, he had never lost to other blacksmiths of the same level. Every time, not only would he forge a supremacy artifact for himself, he would also win the treasures that the other party had painstakingly forged. Even if they were slightly inferior to Yangming's, they were still genuine venerable artifacts. Putting everything else aside, when it came to supremacy artifacts, he was indeed rich. Furthermore, it was the kind of wealth that no one present could match up to. Seeing Sheng Wanjing's casual attitude, many people felt as though they had been slapped in the face. They were just mocking the princess consort's relatives for not being able to give out anything valuable, but Sheng Wanjing was the first to give out a trump card. Just these 6 supremacy artifacts alone were already more valuable than most of the other supremacy artifacts. Chu Luiyue was also a little surprised. She knew that Taizu should have some valuable artifacts, but she didn't expect Taizu to give out 6 supremacy artifacts at once. After a brief moment of shock, Chu Luiyue took the artifacts with a smile. "Thank you, Taizu." Sheng Wanjing laughed heartily. "It's good that you likes it. Hurry up and put it on." Chu Luiyue was wearing the holy ring that Rong Xiao gave her on her right hand. After pondering for a moment, she decided to put the one that Taizu gave her on her left hand. After trying it on, only her thumb fit. Looking at it now, it looked more like a thumb ring. Everyone's faces paled as they watched from below. At this moment, Sheng Wanyu had a ring on his left hand that contained 6 venerable grade divine artifacts. The holy ring on his right hand symbolized the supreme status of the Yuntian Tower. Just this alone was enough to make many people look up to him. At this moment, Nan Su Huai burst into laughter. Senior Shengwan gave such a valuable gift right off the bat. It's really embarrassing. Everyone turned to look. What did the dean of Lingxiao College intend to give her? Chu Liuyue's eyes curved into crescents. Master has already given you many things. No matter what Master gives, you will like it. You brat. Nan Su Huai snorted with a smile. This was the truth. Previously when Yu was still in the academy, he had indeed helped her open many back doors. But now that it was her wedding, she naturally had to prepare a generous gift. Nan Su Huai took out 2 green jade tokens. Chu Liuyue's heart skipped a beat. She seemed to have thought of something as shock flashed in her eyes. Could it be? This green jade token symbolizes the status of an elder of Lingxiao College. Those who hold this token can enter and leave Lingxiao College at will and enjoy the treatment of an elder. As he spoke, he flicked his wrist. The 2 green jade tokens flew to Chu Luiyue and Rongxiu. The 2 of them reached out to take the tokens. Chu Luiyue took a closer look and saw her name engraved at the bottom of the token. You. She turned her gaze and saw the word Xiao engraved on Rongxiu's green jade token. Just inject your force into it and it will be activated, Nan Su Huai said with a smile. Chu Luiyue nodded. She held her breath and injected some force into the token. Buzz! The green jade token shone brightly. A number gradually appeared. Chu Luiyue opened her eyes wide. This is... Nan Su Huai saw her expression and smiled even more proudly. I have already deposited some points inside. This should be enough for the 2 of you to use for a while, right? There is such a bonus. It was a pleasant surprise. How could it only be used for a while? Chu Luiyue felt that even if she did whatever she wanted, she would not be able to spend it all in 10 years. Outsiders might not know what this number meant. But she knew. With these points, wouldn't she be able to pick the herbs in the Medicine Wind Valley as she wished? Wouldn't she be able to read the Xian Array medical books in the library as she wished? The gift that her master had given her had truly hit the bottom of her heart. Chu Luiyue raised her head, her eyes shining brightly. "Thank you, master." She suddenly felt that master was more amiable. Nan Su Hui raised his finger and shook it. "Actually, these are not the most important things. Do you know the most important thing about this green jade token?" Chu Luiyue was stunned. The green jade token was exclusive to the elders of the school. Master did not mean that she and Rongxiu would become the elders of the school. He only meant to give them the green jade token. Then, did it mean something else? Nan Su Hui put one hand behind his back and raised his chin slightly. He still had a smile on his face, but there was a hint of dignity in his eyes that could not be disobeyed. The holder of the green jade token will receive the highest protection of the Lingxiao College. If anyone hurts you, the Lingxiao College will avenge you at all costs. Every word was sonorous and forceful. It was like a clap of thunder that exploded in everyone's ears in the main hall. Everyone looked at each other and suddenly understood something. Nan Su Hui was going to protect Sheng Wanyu to the end. What did he mean by that? Lingxiao College would not stand by and do nothing if someone were to offend them in the future. Rongxiu was the holy son of the Yuntian Tower, so he did not need these things. It was obvious that these things were specially prepared for Sheng Wanyu. In the past, Nan Su Hui had always stood behind her and stood up for her as the master of Sheng Wanyu. In the future, the entire Lingxiao College would be her backing and trump card. Anyone who was afraid of Lingxiao College would have to be afraid of Sheng Wanyu in the future. How was this a gift? It was clearly a gift of power. Mobile users, please browse for a better reading experience from Love Network. Chapter 1807. Everyone in the ethereal hall was shocked before they fell into a long period of silence. How could this be? How could this be? As the school head, shouldn't Nan Su Hui do things impartially? How could he give away the entire Lingxiao College so openly just to support Shanghai Yu? Wouldn't the other elders and students of Lingxiao College object to this? Nan Su Hui's actions aren't too appropriate, right? Indeed. Even if Shanghai Yu is his disciple, he shouldn't dote on her like this. How would the other students in the academy think of this? I've heard that Nan Su Hui dotes on his disciple a lot, and it seems like he really lives up to his reputation, as expected of the school head. He's indeed generous. I wonder if Lingxiao College will be as peaceful as before in the future. All kinds of discussions sounded like a tidal wave. Even though some of them didn't say anything, it was clear that they weren't optimistic about this matter. After all, Lingxiao College wasn't a place where Nan Su Hui's family could dominate. Upon hearing those words, Nan Su Hui raised his eyebrows and smiled. You don't have to worry about this. He turned around, and even though he was smiling, his gaze was as sharp as a knife as it swept across those who spoke rudely. Everyone fell silent for a moment. However, Nan Su Hui's smile widened. Previously, when Lingxiao College was in danger, it was all thanks to you, who risked her life to turn the tide that the entire academy was saved. The verdant jade token had never been given to anyone who wasn't an elder. Today, we've made an exception and given it to Yu Er and her husband. This was a decision that all of the elders in the academy had agreed to. Why do you seem to be unhappy when our people don't have any objections? Who are you unhappy for? Why don't you think that anyone will care? Since it's a decision made by a person, it's not up to outsiders like you to comment on it. Even though Nan Su Hui didn't say those words out loud, his expression conveyed his thoughts very vividly. Many people felt embarrassed, and they quickly averted their gazes. However, Nan Su Hui didn't seem to be satisfied yet. One more thing, I'd like to remind you all that I, Nan Su Hui, have only accepted one disciple in my entire life. Everyone suddenly thought of something and looked at Nan Su Hui in disbelief. What was the meaning of this? Is he planning to pass the position of dean to Shengguanyu? Yes. If he didn't have this intention, why would he be so protective of Shengguanyu and even give them such a big gift? Furthermore, the other elders of Lingxiao College were all in favor of the green jade token. Could it be that they had already decided? Many people began to feel uneasy. If Shengguanyu really became the dean of Lingxiao College, the situation would be very different. Even if she didn't have any roots in the divine ruins world, Lingxiao College was an absolute colossus. I brought it with me. Shengguanyu explained. It belongs to you after all. Chu Luo suppressed the excitement in his heart and reached out to hold the Tianling scepter. Buzz! In an instant, the eyes of the dragon head on the scepter shone brightly. Almost instinctively, Chu Luo held her scepter and swung it down. Shwa! The sound of air being torn apart sounded. At the same time, an incomparably powerful aura descended upon the entire ethereal whole. A supremacy artifact. Everyone was once again thrown into disarray. Why was it a supremacy artifact? Could it be that the people of the Shengguan clan were all giving such gifts? Shengguan Jing laughed heartily. This little thing still likes to stick to you. Chu Luo could also sense that the energy coming from the Tianling scepter seemed to be stronger than before. She had never noticed that it was a supremacy artifact before. As if seeing through her thoughts, Shengguan Jing explained. This Tianling scepter is indeed a supremacy artifact that I forged a long time ago, but it's a little different from ordinary supremacy artifacts. The stronger the wielder is, the stronger the power it can unleash. In the past, your cultivation wasn't high enough, so the power you could sense and wield was limited. However, now that your cultivation has increased significantly, it's only natural that the power it wields is different. Mobile users, please browse for a better reading experience from the Love Network. In fact, it could even be said to be somewhat crude. Everyone heaved a sigh of relief. Finally, a normal one. This was the grade that they should give out. Chu Luo didn't care about this. He took the jade box with both hands and opened it. A small green jade gourd was strung together with a red string. There was a faint trace of red inside the jade gourd. She picked up the small jade gourd. Countless gazes fell on it. Someone couldn't help but chuckle. What is this? It was fine if the jade box's material was inferior. After all, it was just a container to hold gifts. But this jade gourd. Its quality wasn't very good either. Looking at the color, it was a bit mottled. It was really ugly to the extreme. How could such a thing be given out? Didn't Shengguanyu feel embarrassed? Chu Luo's expression was slightly serious. He stared at the jade gourd for a long time before asking, "Father, what's inside?" "That's Chu Ning's blood." Shengguan Jing suddenly spoke. Everyone didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Blood? So that Chu Ning asked Shengguan Jing for help and put his blood in that jade gourd. That's too old-fashioned. What's the point? Oh my God, even if he doesn't have anything to give, he shouldn't be so poor, right? Giving his own blood. What is this? That's right. Even if he borrowed a gift, it would be better than this, right? If I were Shengguanyu, I really wouldn't be able to accept this thing. Sounds of discussion gradually rose in the main hall. Chu Ning's hand tightened. This was indeed the best gift that he could give Su Yang. Shengguan Jing glanced around and suddenly laughed. I didn't know when the god's blood of the indestructible divine body became so worthless. As soon as he finished speaking, the hall suddenly became dead silent. Some people still had disdainful smiles on their faces, but their eyes were filled with shock. It looked very strange and funny. There were also people who quickly looked at Chu Ning. Indestructible divine body. Chu Ning has the indestructible divine body. That's one of the rarest divine bodies in the world. He's only a stage 4 warrior. No, that's not right. Rumor has it that when he came to the Yuntian Tower half a month ago, he was only a stage 1 warrior. In such a short period of time, he actually broke through 3 stages in a row. The indestructible divine body has an extremely strong vitality. As long as there's a breath left, it can quickly recover and have a higher combat power. Chu Ning refined the god's blood and merged it into the jade gourd. Wear it and you can contact him at any time. If you encounter any trouble, just call him directly. If it's really dangerous, break the jade gourd, and the god's blood will help you recover. Although it could only be used once, it was equivalent to having half an extra life. Chu Ning's current realm is not high, and the power of the god's blood is also relatively thin. During this period of time, in order to refine this drop of blood, he suffered a lot. Chu Ning quickly shook his head. No, Senior Shengwan is exaggerating. Daddy doesn't have anything to give you. I just hope that you will be safe. Chu Liuyue's nose twitched, but his lips bloomed into a smile. Thank you, Daddy. He didn't have any rare treasures, only love and passion. He didn't hesitate to give it to her. She was so lucky. Daddy, your gift is no worse than anyone else's. Everyone was silent. Needless to say, the indestructible divine body's God's blood. They didn't even think about it. Shengwan Yu directly had it. Who didn't want to have half an extra life? Even a seemingly lowly existence like Chu Ning could actually give away such a heaven-defying treasure. What kind of luck did Shengwan Yu have? At this moment, an announcement came from outside. The Crimson Gold Sky Phoenix Clan's clan leader, Yi Zhao, has arrived. Everyone turned around in shock. Yi Zhao. The Crimson Gold Sky Phoenix Clan's clan leader. Why is he here? Under everyone's gaze, a tall and sturdy figure appeared outside the door. The moment he appeared, a powerful and vast aura was emitted from his body. It was so oppressive that everyone couldn't breathe. Everyone subconsciously held their breaths. Yi Zhao, to them, he was also a legendary figure. Someone muttered in a low voice. Yi Zhao actually came. Is he here to cause trouble for Shengwan Yu? Digression, continue at 6 p.m. Mobile users, please browse for a better reading experience from Love Network. Chapter 1809. I've long heard that Shengwan Yu contracted a crimson gold sky phoenix and was invited to Phoenix God Mountain some time ago. Later on, I don't know how he came out. Yi Zhao appearing now, could it really be because of that matter? It's most likely. The Crimson Gold Sky Phoenix clan is so noble and arrogant. Yi Zhao has never interacted with the human race. Today, he's here personally, so it's definitely not simple. If the Crimson Gold Sky Phoenix clan really wants to make a move on Shengwan Yu, the Yuntian Tower won't be able to stop them, right? Not to mention the Yuntian Tower, none of the families present could be compared to the ancient Divine Beast clan's combat power. Many people in the hall stood up at the same time. Clan leader Yi Zhao, nice to meet you. We've heard a lot about you. I didn't expect to meet you today. Clan leader Yi Zhao, many of the people who still had some pride on their faces just now changed into eager and courteous smiles one after another. It was not difficult to hear the flattery in their words. Even though doing this would make him change too quickly and it would seem a little awkward, but who wasn't like this? Please. The person in front of them was the clan leader of the Crimson Gold Sky Phoenix clan. He was the world's top expert who could reject a venerable god expert without hesitation. Who here could be compared to him? Usually, many people wanted to establish a relationship with the Crimson Gold Sky Phoenix clan, but unfortunately, they didn't have the connections. Now, Yi Zhao was in front of them. How could they not seize the opportunity? This was a world where the strong preyed on the weak. Everyone had a strong desire to be strong. If they could establish a relationship with Yi Zhao, so what if others said that they were flattering, solicitous, and trying to curry favor with him? However, Yi Zhao completely ignored these people's greetings. His expression was cold and solemn as he strode forward. His pace was very hurried, and cold wind was wrapped around him as he walked. Wherever he passed, his aura crushed. Many people felt a little embarrassed when they were ignored. But this kind of embarrassment was quickly dispelled by themselves. Wasn't Yi Zhao always like this? If he could greet anyone with a smile, that would be a miracle. This person is indeed the same as the rumors say, cold-faced and cold-hearted. Not only that. I heard that he's super strong and ruthless. All these years, the Crimson Gold Sky Phoenix clan is almost his soul say. Not to mention us, even their own clan members don't dare to disobey him. Do you guys smell it? That murderous and cold aura on his body. He hadn't even made a move yet, but the overflowing pressure was already so terrifying. If he really wants to make a move, I'm afraid no one here. Sky Phoenix Sky Phoenix Crimson Clan is Yi Zhao use it. Yi Zhao, Yi's clan. Under the gazes of everyone, Yi Zhao walked into the hall. Rong Xiu stood up first with a smile on his lips. Clan leader Yi Zhao, long time no see. How have you been? Everyone was stunned. Rong Xiu actually knows Yi Zhao. And judging from his tone, it seems like they have a good relationship. Could it be that he's pretending? Rong Xiu was powerful and famous in the Yuntian Tower, but they had never heard of him having any contact with the Crimson Gold Sky Phoenix clan. Just as everyone was guessing, Yi Zhao nodded and said indifferently, "That's right. Everything is as usual." Many people looked at each other secretly. Does he really know Yi Zhao Yu? Yi Zhao turned and looked at Chu Luyue. Shangguan Yu. His voice was low and cold. Everyone's hearts were in their mouths. It's coming. It's about to start. This time, even if the Yuntian Tower and Lingshao College joined forces, they wouldn't be able to protect her. Congratulations to the two of you on your wedding. I received the news a little late, so I came a little late. Am I late? Yi Zhao asked. Almost everyone's expression froze at this moment. What did Yi Zhao say? Not only did he not reprimand Shangguan Yu, he even congratulated them on their wedding. The air in the hall seemed to have stopped flowing. All the noise suddenly disappeared, leaving only a suffocating silence. Chu Luyue stood up, and her eyes curved. How can this be? You came at the right time. Why didn't I hear that you were coming? We didn't make any preparations. Sorry for the delay. Rong Xiu had already ordered someone to prepare a seat for him. His seat was naturally the innermost, closest to the two of them. Of course, he was the VIP of the VIPs. Even if he sat at the top, no one would have any objections. While everyone was still in a daze, they saw a little girl suddenly appear in front of Chu Luyue. The little girl looked to be no more than 3 or 4 years old. She was wearing a reddish-gold lotus leaf dress, and her hair was tied up in 2 round buns with golden bells. Her small face was fair and cute, and people couldn't help but reach out and pinch it. Chu Luyue gave her a gentle push from behind. Dumpling, go and greet Yi Zhao. Tuanzi was also very surprised. She rushed over with her chubby feet bare. Grandpa clan leader. Her laughter was as clear as silver bells, and Yi Zhao's heart melted. He almost instinctively bent down, stretched out his arms, and caught Dumpling firmly. Then, he lifted her up. She was soft and small in his arms, and there was still a faint milky fragrance on her body. Her smile was bright, and her grape-like big eyes were sparkling. A doting smile finally appeared on Yi Zhao's face that had always been cold and solemn. "Dumpling, did you miss Grandpa Clan Leader?" Dumpling nodded vigorously. "Yes. Of course. Why didn't Grandpa Clan Leader say that he was coming?" Before Yi Zhao could say anything, a smiling voice came from outside the door. "Of course it's to give you a surprise." At the same time, a figure floated in. Tuanzi raised her head and looked over. Then she smiled even more happily. "Grandpa Yu." Everyone present felt as if they were struck by lightning. Yu. One of the 5 great elders of the Crimson Gold Sky Phoenix clan, Yu. Yi Zhao wasn't enough, and now Yu was here too. What was he doing? Yu walked over with a smile and directly reached out to pinch Dumpling's perky nose. "Dumpling, did you miss Grandpa Yu?" Yes. Dumpling giggled. Elder Yu was satisfied. Yi Zhao glanced at him coldly. Elder Yu was fearless. "Dumpling, you don't know, but Grandpa Clan Leader misses you so much that he abandoned me on the road just now." Hee. Yi Zhao's eyebrows twitched. It seemed that some people were really ungrateful. "You're too useless." Their footsteps were so slow, and the wedding ceremony was about to end. Elder Yu coughed and touched his nose. It had been a long time since he was criticized like this. But who asked the other party to be the clan leader? Could he beat him? No, he couldn't. He could only endure it. So Grandpa Clan Leader misses me that much. Dumpling came to a realization. Then, she grabbed Yi Zhao's beard and leaned over to kiss his face. Dumpling also misses Grandpa Clan Leader a lot. Mobile users, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from Love Network. Chapter 18:10. Yi Zhao's body stiffened. He was so agitated that his hands were trembling. What had he not seen in his life? Even in the face of death, his heart wouldn't beat so quickly. But this feeling was wonderful. He felt as though his entire body was soaked in a hot spring. It was warm, comfortable, and smooth. In short, there was only one word to describe it: comfortable. At this moment, he even felt that even if Dumpling wanted the stars in the sky, he would find a way to pluck them and give them to her. As long as she was happy. Elder Yu was petrified as he watched from the side. He seemed to have assisted her. He was jealous. But at this moment, the crowd in the hall wasn't just jealous. They were about to go crazy. Everything that had happened in such a short period of time contained too much information. What did that little girl called Dumpling call Yi Zhao? Grandpa Clan Chief. Didn't that mean that she was the Crimson Gold Sky Phoenix that had contracted with Shangguanyu? No, what happened to the agreement that she was here to cause trouble? What happened to the agreement that the bloodline of the ancient divine beasts wasn't to be sullied? What happened to the agreement that the Crimson Gold Sky Phoenix wouldn't interact with humans and draw a clear line between them? What was going on now? That little girl was clearly contracted with Shangguanyu. Otherwise, she wouldn't have suddenly appeared beside Shangguanyu. Didn't Yi Zhao care about that? And he was so affectionate toward her. Furthermore, didn't Crimson Gold Sky Phoenixes have to wait until they reached adulthood to take on a human form? That little girl clearly looked very young. Someone braced himself and asked. "May I ask?" Clan Chief Yi Zhao, this time, Yi Zhao finally turned his head and shot him a glance. "I forgot to introduce her. This is Dumpling, the young master of our Crimson Gold Sky Phoenix clan." Dead silence. That short sentence was no different from a bolt of lightning that struck the ethereal hall. Everyone was stunned. Their expressions were fascinating. Young master, that little girl was the young master of the Crimson Gold Sky Phoenix clan. No, that wasn't the most important thing. The most important thing was that the young master of the Crimson Gold Sky Phoenix clan was Sheng Yu's contracted mythological beast. What did this mean? No one knew what this meant. Because such a thing had never happened before. Just a moment ago, they were still thinking that Sheng Yu might be targeted by Yi Zhao because of the Crimson Gold Heavenly Phoenix. In the next second, Yi Zhao dropped such a bombshell. How could anyone accept this? No, how could there be such a person? It's one thing for you to form a contract with a divine beast, but it's an ancient divine beast. Putting aside the fact that he was an ancient divine beast, he was actually a young master. Normal people wouldn't even dare to dream like that. As he spoke, he nodded at Elder Yu beside him. Elder Yu stepped forward with a smile and handed over a jade bottle. This is the spring water condensed in the frost cave on Godly Phoenix Mountain. It's only produced once every 100 years, and it's extremely beneficial for cultivation. This is a small gift to show our respect. A trace of shock flashed across Chu Liyue's eyes. She knew about this item. Back then, that god-level expert had gone to Godly Phoenix Mountain to ask for this item. And at that time, he had only asked for a few drops. In the end, he hadn't even been able to enter Godly Phoenix Mountain, let alone obtain the spring water from the frost cave. She didn't expect that not only did Yi Zhao and the others come personally, but they also brought such a generous gift. Chu Liyue received it with both hands and thanked them solemnly. Everyone in the main hall revealed looks of envy. Some people were so lucky that they couldn't understand it. After today's event, even if they wanted to do anything in the future, they would have to think twice. Suddenly, another low and heroic laughter sounded out from afar. Ha ha ha. It's so lively here. Is this old man late? Mobile users, please browse for a better reading experience from Love Network. You're tuning into the Journey of the Soul YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.